all stand, we'll pledge allegiance. John, do you want to lead us today?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started here. I think there's been a problem on the minutes. I don't, did you get a chance to look at them? We didn't.
I did not get Kim. We had trouble getting attachments and stuff to the minutes and stuff. That was difficult. I had them one time, and then we had enough correspondences. I think I deleted that one, and so I've briefed through these minutes presented to us this morning by Kim, and on a very cursory overview of these minutes, I have not found anything amiss. So I will risk making the motion that the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners from Montezuma County dated February 12th be approved.
And I'll risk a second.
It's been moved and seconded at great risk to approve the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners for Montezuma County, February 12th, 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Ready for me?
Right.
I have revised the December financials. The biggest difference that has happened in all of this is going through the month of January. We go through and see how many receivables, things that have been billed for and received in January. So those have been added to this financials, and this is what the auditor would do anyways. Mostly at the health department, some sheriff's office grants. It's all grant related, so that you can get your revenue and your expenses matched at the same time. So I have the revisions here to where some of these look like they might have been in the end more expended of the, let me say that differently. There's going to be more revenue with the receivables in there, so that our fund balances will actually be higher because of that revenue that is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically
Did the
what
treasurer
December-
see a lot of taxes getting prepaid in December? Did she have a tremendous?
No, I don't think so, because the bills didn't go out until mid-January. So, unless people were speculating what they were going to pay and not know the exact amount, because it took a little while. I mean, our bills didn't come out till quite a bit later this year.
From the assessor.
So there was, I think Kinder Morgan paid that next year in December. So actually something that happened in 2017 is we got the, I don't know if I've got the years right, 2 years, 10 and 11 audits. Both of those were received in the same year. So the delinquent taxes is much higher than it has been in the past. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that was the main difference in the December financials, is just recording those revenues. If you want me to, I'll go ahead and go through the January stuff and the accounts payable. Then you do all of them at the same time. For January, there is a difference here. In December, let me go back to page 1 here. I'm trying to get to page 1. We had 41 million in assets here, and in January, a lot of this has to do with cash. We're at 39.8. A lot of that has to do with the change in cash, because in January we have a lot of insurance and all that kind of stuff, big payments in the first of the year. So that's why those assets look like they're down a lot, but most of it is in cash, because we've got a lot of cash payments out.
Mm-hmm.
So as of January, we'll do a quick run through of where everybody's spent. I can see that far. 8% of the year is done, and this is our general fund right here. We've spent 10% of our expenditures, with only 8% of the year gone. But a lot of that's those prepaid insurances and
items.
annual fees.
Mhm.
So it's not alarming.
No.
It's normal. Road and bridge was at 7% versus 7.4 versus 7.6 last year. Public health 6% versus 9.3 last year. Oh, that's revenue. 7.7 versus 6.4, so they're within their 8%. Landfill, I can't read that number.
9.6.
9.6.
Mm-hmm.
And they were at 9.6 last year also. Fleet expenditures. This one looks real bad, the 19%, but they had to pay all the insurance, pay all that stuff up front, and at least half of that, almost half of that insurance, they're going to get reimbursed because they paid the insurance on everything and the yellow iron and all that, and then the road department will pay them back for that specific insurance. Capital fund, we've got 20% of the year's expenditures here, but our expenditures are way down compared to last year. This year our budget is only 552, whereas last year it was 8.4 million. So percentage wise looks bad, but at the same time we're not spending near as much. And the biggest part of that is we paid the clerk's voting equipment. That's an annual fee that's been paid in advance too. So, and that's about all of the January. Everything looks fairly normal. Should we go ahead and do the payables while we're at it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
those are the old ones.
On the payables, I cheated and I have my numbers over here where I can read them. General fund ends up being, where's that number? There it is. $1.3 million. Road and bridge, 448. Public health, 161. Capital fund, 113. And the biggest part of that one, this Kansas State Bank, that's the final payment on those 18 vehicles we purchased for the sheriff's office and that Dominion voting system. Without those two, our capital is
Pretty minimal.
Yep, way different. Administration fund, $1,400, which is all phone fees for E911. Landfill, $120,000 there. Fleet is, let's see the top up here, $138,000, and we'll show you right here. Fleet, Walcott Insurance, that's the insurance. And the other thing that's happened, this Wex Bank, Fleet is paying for all the fuel at this point, and then that's part of the 51 cents that everybody's paying in their vehicles. Now, part of this Wex also, that's all the bills that, there's diesel that was purchased by the Road and Bridge, so Road and Bridge will pay that diesel right back to the Fleet. It just makes it, instead of getting the okay from 12 different departments to pay the fuel bill, we pay it, and then each one of those, on the diesel, they reimburse. That's an annual. That's for vehicles, just for vehicles. The insurance on
Liability and buildings.
Walcott insurance liability was $179,000 out of the general fund, and then we had the work comp was $136,000 out of the general fund. So there's a lot of big bills.
Is the diesel for the road and bridge, is that by the mile as well?
No, because diesel is part of the yellow iron pieces.
That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, it's not a
So
mileage.
how's that calculated?
All of the vehicles are gas driven, so whatever diesel they get for their tanks, let's see if they put them in their tanks and then use them to put in the vehicles as they're, and the trucks and tractor, not the trucks,
We got our conical cards, that's how they scan us, to keep up with us on our cards.
So that could be even the truck hauling ones use diesel, but it's
Oh,
with
yeah.
the WEX card. And then some of the supervisors have tanks in the back of their pickups that they use to put directly in the machinery when they're out on the road, so,
And so that's just, you just pay for that on the yellow iron.
yeah.
Just say that would have been a sweet deal for the road department if it was by the mile.
Well,
For
no.
a backhoe.
Very expensive per mile.
I think it'd be more than 51 cents.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Has to be a new category for that.
Let me get down to the bottom here with social services. Lots of stuff. Social services, $1.2 million. This one, I'm not impressed with that number right there. EBT totals last month, that was $700,000, and this month it was $799.
Almost 800,000.
So
Gee.
altogether for the month of January, $3.6 million. And I'm anticipating, I'm hoping this will be the biggest month that we have this year. So,
Man.
Well, I move to approve the revised December 2017 financial statements, the January 2018 accounts payable, and the January 2018 financial statements for Montezuma County.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the revised December 2017 financial statements, the January 2018 accounts payable, and the January 2018 financial statements. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Listen, can you go back to the, how much did we have in the capital fund? Was it like $500,000?
550,000, I think.
yes, right here.
Yeah.
552.
I know that Tanner's not up, but I was out at that rodeo this weekend, and I had several parents complaining about how old the bathrooms are. And I tell you, I walked in there and they're correct. That needs to be on our list to remodel the bathrooms in the main building because they're.
We do have 40,000 here on the fairgrounds, but I'm not sure what that's for. That was for planned equipment, I'm guessing. But we can add an amendment too.
Isn't Tanner planning to do a remodel of the kitchen, and isn't he wanting to
He's
update
wanting to do the kitchen.
and maybe it's time to.
I tell you, you need to
Kitchen.
go in there. The toilets
Yeah.
went and flushed. They're just old. I mean, they're
Yeah,
as old as the building.
There's a, yeah, they're probably the original equipment.
Everything's just.
Yeah. Ancient wore out.
Yeah.
Did you?
Well, then that's probably something we need to chat with Tanner about, especially maybe if we could couple it with this if we do the kitchen and make that a project to just upgrade that, because I'm sure that kitchen's about what the original kitchen was too. So.
Yeah, they would kind of tie in together.
Tie
right
them
next to
together,
each
yeah,
other.
they are, they're right there together, yeah.
Do it all at the same time,
Yeah.
Okay. Public comment time. If anybody has any public comment to make, if you come up to the podium and state your name and address, tell us what you have to say.
Gayla Pock, 7672 County Road, CC, Pleasant View. 2 weeks ago, I was up here saying there's something strange about the amount that my property tax went up compared to how much property tax revenue the county was going to get. Well, I took your advice, Keenan, and went over and talked to Leslie Bugg, very professional lady. I was quite impressed. And there is something strange. They haven't been taxing me properly in the past, but they have a picture of my house and my shed, but they were only charging me for one building, so they fixed that, and that's why my taxes went up so high. So I knew there was something wrong, and there was something wrong.
You know, Gail, I'm glad you brought that to our attention, and I think our assessor is going to find, when she gets her personnel in place where they're going to go out and do an inventory, a county inventory of the buildings, the properties, and how they've changed and what's been added, I think we're going to find a lot of things are not on our county tax rolls.
That may be the case, but they did come out and appraise my mine back in like 2003 or something, you know, when it was new, and they had pictures of both buildings. They just didn't have both of them on the tax rolls. It wasn't an issue of needing somebody in the field. It was
Just it wasn't going from.
yeah, they just didn't get it in their database. But I felt I owed you an explanation of what happened there. Now, indeed, land values have gone up, and that contributed to it. But a big portion of it was the fact that they were not taxing one of my buildings.
Well, thank you for checking that out, Gail.
And thank you.
She's not sure she wants to thank you.
Thanks for paying.
My taxes are higher.
Thanks for paying your fair share, Gabriel. We appreciate that.
Okay, is there anybody else? If not, we'll close the public comment. And next is Mr. Engelhardt. Morning.
Morning, Rob.
Hands are cold. Mine are.
Yeah. You just get here?
Cold hands.
Yeah, there you go.
Something like that. Oh, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Snow removal.
You know, we keep trying. It's not snow, it's ice. You got some snow, didn't you, Caleb?
A little bit.
Yeah. The other day, was it 4 or 5 inches up here up to Weston?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Which is, I think
On one side of Lizard Head it says 3 feet, on the other side it says 2 feet. We're on the short side.
we're on the short side.
We're on the short side. I think it's blown up there around those sheep pens. It's blown a bunch. But yeah, one measuring stick on the Trout Lake side shows right at 3 feet, and on our side it's 2 feet. So we're still needing some storms to come in.
Well, I think Gala set the record her area. I mean, the rest of them just had a skiff. It was just enough to be ice. And so you got to
Just
send them
enough
out
back
and do a
down
little,
turned ice,
you know,
yeah.
all the districts had to send trucks out and do intersections and
Yeah.
not the blades, none of that stuff. Well,
Mhm.
maybe out
Put
hers,
some
but,
sand and
but
stuff.
sand to the intersections,
Yeah.
yeah. And it just, that was that cold morning.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And wet snow, and at least add some moisture in the snow.
I guess. You walk out across there, it's still pretty dry. so,
I think 491 was closed at one
Out
time.
past Dove Creek it was, yeah.
Mhm.
It sure
Well,
was.
it got snowed in at the
it was a crazy thing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They had 5 inches down there, Jim.
Whoa.
And by 10 o'clock, it was all gone.
Okay.
Came through there Friday. I've never seen that much snow down there.
Huh?
I've never seen that much snow down there. Come through
I'll be
Friday.
darned.
That's
We were
good.
pretty happy about that.
I'll
Yeah.
bet they were. I'll bet they were.
So when we say snow removal, we really are doing a little bit of ice removal or ice sanding, I would say. Some blading, but not very much. But it still needs to be addressed. So we did that on Thursday, and we were planning on probably doing a little bit this morning, but that little skiff over the weekend didn't amount to much. They did go out Saturday and Sunday, a couple of different districts for a few hours. And so we're back into actually hauling gravel this morning. So Cortez is back up on Road L, 32 and P, continuing with that section of road to get gravelled. Supposed to be another storm coming in Wednesday, so I'm just going to leave the schedule as it is. We might be down Wednesday, sanding the roads again. Yeah. So that's what they'll be doing. Mancus, been trimming some trees and brush over there, blading some different roads, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of snow removal. And of course, they get a little more. We're in a higher country. Larry was out this weekend a couple times and moving some snow. So, Dolores, they've got a job going on the trimming on Road R and 32. So that's kind of where we've been sending extra guys to, is over to Dolores. They're working that, it's about a mile one way and about a half mile the other, trimming them trees back and opening that up. It's a lot of heavy brush and getting that cleaned up and putting in new signs and just taking a section of that district and saying, let's rebuild this one, then we'll go to another one and working our way across there. And that'll be up for gravel this spring sometime if we have the trucks available. So that's what they're working on. Mancus even goes over from time to time, helps them with some extra hands, to do all that trimming. So they've got a special project going with that. Dolores is also going to be working on this Road 25. We keep saying we're going to do it, but every time we start, it gets muddy, and we don't want to pull that mud up on the road. We do have a start on it. It's working good, and it's looking good. but it's all for this grinding to get started. So they're all on the same track doing what they were going to do. It's just you just have to bounce in and out with this snow. That's all we're doing. So Roundup, working on some gravel approaches. They got all the trimming done on Road W. This is one that's going to get ground up and redone. So we got in there with the machine and we took all them old willows and got everything back to the fence lines and cleaned that whole road up. And now it's just ready for grinding. And so we're really in good shape. Here we are 1st of March basically, and we're 2 months ahead of schedule of what we normally would be. So, you know, it's a dry winter for all of us, but we're at least taking advantage of it and keep on pounding away. In fact, I noticed the cost this month, what did you say we were at, 6% or something?
9, I think it was
7. Yeah,
We
versus
were
last
below
year.
8%, yeah.
Yeah, last year would have been fuel for plow trucks. This year is fuel for gravel trucks, you know. So what a crazy year, you know. So,
But there are less gravel trucks than there are snow plows.
plows,
yeah.
We want the snow plows.
yes, we do. So the crusher is continuing to crush chips up at Hay Camp, making 5/8 and doing great. The best production I've ever seen him get. So we're doing good. Good dry rock. That new liner in that cone is just sitting there crunching away, and we're knocking out about 500 ton a day of 5/8 chips. That's really good for that old crusher. So just, you know, all I can say is everybody's doing a great job. They're doing good. So.
Sorry you missed that front end loader that you were.
Oh, the
had
loader.
a chance to bid on. Would it have been worth it to you to go up a little more?
No,
Not really.
no,
Yeah.
because we knew the guy,
Yeah.
and he said he wouldn't bid over that price. We set our limit at 25,
I got you.
and he went over 25, and we're glad we didn't take it. Yeah, so it was a opportunity to grab another loader that would have been local, didn't have to pay a bunch of freight to get it in here, and we really do need to get another 3.5 yard loader, maybe 4, to put out like at Ormiston, and then back into town in the winter. Because
Load
we
the
just,
trucks and
yeah,
load
we're
the
just,
crusher
it's
and-
hard to get a loader in and out of Ormiston, so.
What kind was it?
It was a little Cat 938G, so, and it would have took some work. It had some small stuff, but nothing major. So, but no, somebody wanted it worse than we did. So. That's usually how it goes when I'm buying at an auction. No, usually I get it at a high price. So,
Just the next bid
yeah. Well, one guy in North Dakota was wanting it worse than the other guy in Colorado, but the Colorado guy still won. So the freight starts being a part of
We
it.
had
So.
to pay those upon Rose September for their heavy loader.
They're a good loader, yeah, and it'd be a perfect loader for a hit and miss type operation. When we're doing heavy hauling and we're doing lots of it, we'll go get the bigger loaders. But if you want to pick the trucks up and go to Ormiston, I can't go there. I don't have a loader, you know.
Yeah.
And all the loaders are out stretched somewhere else. We're just really one short, one loader is what we are. But we're making it work. The right deal come along.
Keep
How
your
many do
eyes
you
open.
have?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loaders. You know, 2 at the crusher full time.
Besides,
yeah,
some
yeah.
of them,
Yeah.
gotta get it over with, they're big.
So, anyway, as far as schedule goes, it's the same thing for the next 2 weeks here. Just working through these hit and miss. Some of these, you know, we're glad we're getting a little moisture and jump right back into the program when we're not getting moisture. So, we did send the bill to MVI. John and I talked last week. The bill that had all the backup to it for the cost of the culverts, the cost of the labor, machinery, the whole thing packaged up, mailed it to them. So that's received now, I guess. I mean,
Same one we handed them.
The one we gave him at the meeting. Yeah.
we gave them a
Yeah,
copy
good,
of that
good.
invoice, but I wanted to send them all the backup
Yeah,
to
you
it.
bet. Yeah, and
So-
good idea, Rob.
Yeah,
Right.
so where that goes, I don't know, but
Have you gotten anything from their attorneys on their decrees?
No, I spoke with them same day I spoke with you last week. I don't remember what day that was. It was toward the end of last week.
Right.
And their attorney, I don't know if I told you this yet, Rob, I may have. Their attorney told me he was going to snail mail me the stuff that, because I called Brandon and left him a voicemail.
And didn't
said,
hear.
hey, you told us you were going to get us the decrees. I don't have them yet. What's the status of that? And before he got back to me, their attorney called me and said, too big for me to email. I'm going to mail them to you. So, short answer, no, I don't have them.
But they should be en route.
good.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'd like to discuss the gates on Road 41. I see some pictures
You
of
want
that.
you want this or the
Yeah, let me start with that one.
quicker? I have one of those too.
I might need that.
And I have these other pictures too.
Yeah, that one will look right there. Let's start with this one. This is a deal that Mancus Water is struggling with right at the moment. Mancus Water is trying to get new water line down through Weber Canyon to supply all the people down there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the state of Colorado wants them to get a 30-year easement, I think it is, not permanent, just 30-year renewable easement to go through the state. So
Revocable, I would assume.
They learned that from the U.S.
Yeah. The road department really needs its own attorney anymore. So if there's any room in the budget,
You're about right, Rob. You're about right.
So, talking to Brandon over there, he's really struggling with what to do there. And so John and I visited about this briefly. And of course, we don't want to give them counsel because it's not right. But John has counseled me to allow them to put the pipe in our road, which we think, or I think, allows them to get by without having to do an easement with the state. And so I called Brandon on Friday and said, try that, see what the state tells you. Then we'll go from there. Which helps, because knowing that he can put that
Yeah,
pipe
that
right up
gives
in the
him a
shoulder
little bit
road.
of
Is
bargaining power, a little bit of leverage there with them.
Right, right.
You said Mancus Water?
Yeah.
And Brandon, but not the same Brandon?
No,
Different
this
Bra-
is
different Brandon?
Yeah, different Brandon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I would just get my names
Brandon
mixed up.
Johnson and MBI, and then this is Mancus Water. Brandon, I should his last name, but I don't got it.
Okay, different Brandon,
Yeah.
okay.
So anyway, they've already came this far with it, and then they're going through here's kind of a sloughie little area, and they're in the ditch up through here, which is still within our what I consider our road. You know, even if it's in
Your
the,
right of way,
it's
yeah.
not over by the fence. It's right in the toe of the ditch, and they've worked with us all the way from day one on this project. Come and got their permits, done it the right way. So technically, there's no loopholes here that they're just plowing down through there on their own at willy-nilly. They're not doing that. They're doing it right. So we stopped the project here, they did, got in this slough area, and they said, well, can we jump up in the road if we can't get an easement through the state? And that's where we're at now, discussing this issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what they do. If they can get the state to leave them alone that way, then I'll let Brandon put that pipe in the edge of the road. It's a good stable road through there, and they'll put it back together correctly, and we'll work it that way.
And maybe it'd be an opportunity to talk to them about accessing some water for our roads. Just come in here for Bladen, say if we're gonna, make this allowance for you or give you this, we'd sure like for you guys to help us when we need to pull some water somewhere.
Yeah,
for
there's
our-
probably gonna be fire hydrants down there, so it'd
Yeah.
probably be a good point. Yeah,
be a
good idea.
point. Say, hey, let's just kind of do this over the whole
Mhm.
area over there.
Yeah.
Let's just become friends in this
Yeah.
whole area over there with water.
Because there's a need for water. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a water line down there, but it's pretty dilapidated and old, and there's
Old and-
people are needing water down there. So I'm trying to help them get
That's
it.
good.
in
They're
there,
good. They're doing
Yeah.
that. But
So-
So this,
Dirt gravel road.
so it's a gravel road,
is this domestic water, or
domestic water.
Yeah.
Mhm.
do you want these pictures too, or is that just related or unrelated?
I want those. But
Okay,
we can
not
do
yet.
it. Yeah, we can
Whenever you want.
go back to that other map that had the picture of the whole thing.
This one right here?
That being the one. Okay. Again, 41.
Which is starts right here?
Yeah, a little more down. Keep going. Cool. So you're getting into this country here where you got all this private road, and then you're coming into BLM, and you got out of BLM, and private land again. This is where those gates are at, that were there forever. I mean, 1937, John, is what I found out. We can go back to that road was there and being used as a county road. It's a county road with green. But there was nobody living down there. I guess there was a couple residents, one way down there and one at the stagecoach turnaround. It was ranching,
Sure.
But now there's no ranching. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
grazing rights even. BLM don't even have grazing rights on it. So this gate issue, okay, now pull it up. I've asked these folks to get them out of there, which they've worked towards getting them out of there. So this one cracked me up. Here's the old original gate, BLM line, and it had a 16-foot gate in there. So due to historical reasons, I guess, they moved it up here on their new property line and put fence posts in my bar ditches where I can't blade the road,
Oh dear.
and put that back to 16 foot and took the old gate and hung it on there. Now, did we just talk about this, And so their attorney is calling me now going, well, the gate's part of the historical part of it. I go, no, the gate's got to go away. The ADA and the county, and they got to go away. So I've asked them to take this out and take this out. If they want to put two gates back across there, we'll discuss that on a different meeting. but we're not gonna have one gate squeezing us down to that.
Yeah, narrowing the
doing that
road
to the
down
road.
and being in your, being on
Because
your
this road,
shoulder.
this post here is out of the ditch. I can at least pull the ditches,
Yeah.
pull the gravel up, get it on the road,
Here, there,
work our way through it.
where you can't maintain your road.
Yeah, and this is actually a good place for them to put a cattle guard. It's a
Yeah.
great place because you got room to put a
There
16-foot
you go.
cattle guard in and put a gate around it and do all this. But they're just adamant about putting these gates back in there. So I'm just telling you guys, I'm probably going to get a fight started over here, but I'm going to go pull these gates out of there.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is the one that I said they could keep because they did manage to get that post out of the ditch enough that we could get through there. Still
The other
16-foot
one-
opening. Well, and it was always kind of tight there anyway. So they took the historical route with me on that one too. And I said, all right, well, at least you tried to match what was there. I'll leave you alone on this one for the time being until you come up with a cattle guard idea. But I think this is their idea all the way around.
Yeah.
And I just, I've got to say no someplace here and dealing with their attorney now. And he wants to argue about everything. So I'm just at a point where I'm going to say, commissioners, I'm going to take the gates out if you let me.
I was gonna say, you might just take a blade down there and start pulling those shoulders and.
Well, I think
See
that's
what-
what
see
John
what-
told me
see
not
what-
to do.
They said they were considering a cattle guard. I think that they kind of backed off of that idea. But
Yeah.
there was some cattle guard discussion
Mhm.
at some point.
So there is a property owner down there that's a different property owner
Mhm.
at the very bottom.
There's one more gate, and they took that gate down. That property owner, when he got the letter from we requested it be removed, he took it down immediately. Very, very cooperative, yes. I don't know the person, but I know,
His name's Steve. He's that famous guy that's the bike, where they take off with the bike in an alpaca raft and they go places they've never
Where
been
does he live?
before. Huh?
where does he live?
Well, I think he works in Macon. He's the engineer for alpaca rafts. He lives in Durango, but he
Oh.
owns the very bottom property that borders the Utes,
Oh, yes, okay.
and they've got a cabin down there.
Okay, now there's one more gate past this one that belongs to another person that lives back east somewhere, and they were contacted and they took the gate down very quickly.
Yeah, he's further than that.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a place that I can tell you guys, maybe not while I'm here, but it's gonna explode. I mean, it's being sold. It's being sold off in parcels and chunks. And I venture to say, just guessing, you'll probably see a special tax district out of this someday.
Yeah.
And all this will be condemned and 60-foot easements created and da-da. But in the meantime, we got to get these gates where they can't be opened and closed. Because they said, well, what do you think the wind will do? Blow it closed? I don't know. Won't if it's not on there, So
When is that post, like right in the middle of the road?
no, it's not in the middle of the road, but
But, I mean-
it's over a little bit further. But their fencing contractor thought that would suffice, and I'll leave them now. I'll leave them alone with that one until they get something better in there.
So, for somebody that's ranched for a little bit, you put two gates, and you can put your way away, and then you have your two gates come together.
Well, that's exactly what I told him. I said, why you have to have one? Put in two. Oh, yeah, I don't know.
You get two 12-foot gates, probably.
There you go. You got plenty of road width.
It's 24 foot.
That's exactly what I told him. But I said, why are you talking gates anyway? Gates are off the table.
Yeah,
That's the whole
'cause
point.
Because they can't be closing off that road no matter what.
No matter what, yeah. So it's like,
why even have the gate there?
I don't know, but I'm just warning you guys.
Yeah.
There's probably there's an
just
attorney involved in this, and so you'll probably be getting letters. So I'll
Well,
forward it on to you.
You keep holding your ground there.
I
It'll be the first time for them.
no, and I don't think we're wrong with this either. With the American Disabilities Act and all this, I think we're right to do this. And it's just presumptive of them to think that I'm not smart enough to see you move the gate up.
I think their attorney misunderstood the situation before you talked to him last week. I don't think
You don't think he really
He got these same pictures when he started arguing with me.
Yeah, but I don't think he was informed that there's actually a new gate.
Oh, that could be. Yeah, I don't know.
And which is the BLM past that or before that?
Oh, can you go back to the other deal on that?
This one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Think one gate's here and one gate's here. You move on down, scrolling down some more. Yeah, so you're getting into Mr. Woods down here. He has the same issue, but he wants to put a cattle guard in on his. He's already come to.
So that goes right through BLM.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and it's a big deal because there's a lot of access to a lot of
A lot of
BLM
land
acres.
down there, isn't there?
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of land.
Well, has the BLM weighed in on this issue?
No. Well, yeah. Excuse me. I heard second source that Mr. Woods and BLM were going round and round. He thought it was open for grazing, and BLM told him it wasn't. And so he was going to put some cows in there, but he has since changed his plans, and he's going to build some more fences and do some different things now. So, yeah, but it's just, again, people moving in from out of state, buying lots and trying to develop into something they want, which is nice. I'm all for it.
And it just keeps continuing
Just
all the
goes
way
on
down.
all the way
down.
down,
on
right.
the
Yeah, I think Larry,
reservation.
yeah, Larry Don's friend kicks off right here somewhere.
My friend.
Or your
That is my
biker friend. Well, you said biker.
The gentleman you acquainted us with, yeah.
I just got a phone call from his wife, and I've never actually, but we'd seen him when we went
To the
through.
alpaca deal, yeah.
Oh.
Wow, that's the
There's
new
a lot of little
McElmo. The
pieces
new
down there.
McElmo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
new McElmo.
Was this the lady that wants to gravel?
There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
See, there's
Yeah,
another
here it
little
comes.
part that it crosses right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
see, it'll go in and out,
Yeah,
right,
just
it'll
in
do
and
that
out.
all the way down through there, right?
Yeah,
You would think the BLM would be in these discussions
you would think, wouldn't you?
about the gates.
Well, yes, they would if we didn't and somebody else complained, but since
Okay.
we're taking it on with the county road point, I don't know that the BLM has to yet. You know, it just, I've got control of it as a county road right
Yeah,
now.
well, that's true too.
So,
What happened to the guy that was wanting to take, some building section down there, he said the gates were wide.
well, I told him they stand the trusses up on edge, they don't come in 40 foot wide.
There's another way to haul those
Yeah.
that narrows them up quite
I
a
said, tell your
They
contractor.
get long, but
tell
they
your,
get narrow.
tell your supplier you got two gates 16 foot and make sure they stack them right. So, I'm telling you, referee. So anyway, that's going on. Just get you guys up to speed there. So
All right, well, we'll wait to hear.
Forest Service, I told you they want to buy 15,000 ton out of Ormiston from us, right? I told you that, and that's they're working on the contract now. That's a go. So that'll happen.
That's
That'll be-
above and beyond what they get from our, don't they get a certain amount of that when we crush there for the pit at Ormiston?
No, this
No?
they do, but we trade them out of different pits now for that.
Oh,
It
okay.
fits it better, but that's they're
Okay.
buying the 15,000 directly from us. So
Where
they
were
were
they using that?
going across Ormiston all the way over to Dolores Norwood Road. In fact, I don't know what they're doing with Dolores County, but I heard they told me they were going to talk to Dolores County and see if they wanted to participate in all that as a project, just kind of like they do with us on our Montezuma County roads. So we're working out the details on a cubic yard basis rather than a tons. I can't promise them a loader that would have scales, so we can do it by cubic yard and do okay that way. So working it out that way.
Is Dolores County aware that you're gonna be graveling the Dolores Norwood Road?
Yeah, I told Steve. I think I still told him that day I was out there. Of course, I probably need to go visit him again. I was going to go see him last week, just didn't have time. But I wanted to talk to him about some other stuff, but I'll mention it again. So, no, I did mention to him because I wanted to know if he wanted to go in halves with me. If he wanted to help haul, I'll help haul. And he wasn't interested. So. He's busy, so he's got a road he's working on right now. So. Let's see. There should be a machine now.
This one?
That's the one. Is that what you saw, Larry, down out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty slick little machine.
That's exactly what I saw.
Yeah. Wow. Bobcat out of Grand Junction sold it to CDOT, and they got it down in that Disappointment Valley. I said, well, how do they like it? And they said, so far so good. They've had no problems with it. So they were supposed to be sending me some contact information, and they're about, there's one more.
Go on down.
Yeah. That's what it looks like when it's not hooked up. And there's a remote control. So if you get the system with the remote control, it's $49,000 for it. And if you get it without the remote control, it's $45,000. You're going to find pretty soon that you can't buy it without the remote control because the remote control moves this skid in and out.
Yeah.
It runs the belt. And it keeps the guy from standing right here and walking along with it and getting squished.
Getting run over.
Getting run over.
Yeah.
So for safety, liability reasons,
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer you can buy this without a remote control. So it's almost a mute issue. But, $49,000 for a machine that we could use pretty badly in this county. We have a lot of shoulders, and the more paving we do, the more we need it.
So
You know,
that's gotta be heavy, especially when you dump the gravel in it. Is it on wheels?
It's on wheels.
I was wondering how,
Yeah.
because I was like, that, what size of skid steer would a person need?
70 horse will run it. The ones we have are right at the bottom end of running it, okay? But since we have the ones with tracks, that gives us an advantage. This weighs 3,000 pounds empty. It's not that the machine can't push it. It's the machine can't hold it up in the air because it gets tippy, you know?
When it's got
When it's
stuff
got
in
that, well, no, just when it's just getting it off the trailer.
it.
You know, when you get it off the trailer and you get it on the ground, you're fine because it sets on the wheels. But when you're backing it off the trailer, you need a machine big enough to do it. So we've got a couple options. This is just your normal Bobcat skidster hookup. You can buy adapter plates that would fit our backhoes, like our 410s. When we have the auxiliary hydraulics, we could do it on a backhoe. We can do it on a blade. We got the hydraulics on these John Deeres now up front that we can do it on the blades. So we got
Could they run the machine in the process of building the shoulders as well?
well, no, say that again. What was your
Good.
The
question?
Rather
backhoe.
than using the backhoe to unload, you're talking about moving it and unloading
Oh,
it.
off the trailer?
Yeah. Can those backhoes run that just like the skid steer runs it? Can they?
Yes,
they,
yep.
So you could use your backhoes.
Yes,
to
sir.
run it too. I
Mhm,
got you.
mhm.
Wow.
So we probably would get an adapter plate because
Sure.
we're thinking a skidster is kind of cool, but you know, a backhoe gets you up a little higher, you can see a little better, give you a little more horsepower, and just go along there and push that down.
Just a little more beef
Mhm.
on that. Yeah.
So,
Nice.
but
So
it's
does it just have a belt? Is that
yeah,
a
there's a,
belt that goes underneath here and moves it over here to the edge and
Yep.
however wide you want?
yep, and that thing
Cool.
slides in and out from 1 to 4 feet, which you
Mm.
know our county roads are vary like that quite radically, you know.
Mhm.
So I,
Boy.
you know, I'm waiting for some more information to come in, but I sure think it was promising, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. This is the only company that builds them. You Google them, there's nobody
That's
else.
it.
Mhm.
That's
So,
it.
seemed to be a pretty marketable solution to a
Boy.
problem we got.
Boy.
So,
And you could build some shoulders in a hurry with that going down the
Oh,
road.
yeah.
I mean, you could.
well, this is also for asphalt too. You can use it for behind
Paving, yeah.
curbs. I mean, there's a whole video on this thing. They're doing paving patching with asphalt. They're doing behind curb and backfill behind curb and gutter with them. You know, they're just an amazing tool, really. So in our case, it's pretty simple, but it can grow. You can get them with a skid on each side. You know, I don't see us needing that. I wouldn't go against the traffic anyway. But this is about a $45,000 machine with it two sides. It's $60,000, so we wouldn't need that.
Yeah.
So, but it was interesting. I'm glad
Yeah.
you brought it up, Lord, because it's something we may want to take a good look at. So, or at least a hard look.
That's
at.
one of the biggest drawbacks on all our county roads is the lack of shoulders on.
Yeah, and the county road department, they have an old conveyor system that fits on the back of an end dump, but that end dump has to go back and get the same load. So it's just like, you know,
You're just
Instead of a bunch of trucks stacked
all
there.
right, and it just takes you forever to go do one. I mean, it worked. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it, but it was on a truck, and you had to go back and load the truck and then come back
Come
out.
back and
spend
start
more.
in again and
Yeah,
go
we only
back
had
and-
one conveyor fit on one truck.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So with this, you line them up like your
It's
asphalt.
just like you're
truck
doing
and
chip seal or something.
Yeah.
You get 4 or 5 end dumps out there and
Just
just
keep
keep
right
on
on
going. So
How fast does it go? I mean, how much could you do in a day? A bunch?
I need to talk to those CDOT guys because they've been playing with it and they give me a better answer. I just don't have that answer.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's an interesting idea, and we've been looking for one and different ideas. We were talking to Four Corners, and they kind of homemade one out of an old chip spreader, and they weren't liking it very well because it was old and wore out, and they were going to sell it, and that's how we usually get our stuff, is old and wore out. So then they decided maybe it was better than nothing, and they hadn't bought another one, and so I got a hold of Marty down there and sent that to him, and he's going, wow, thanks, you know, so he's happy, you know, so I think this is an idea we may see some future in, so.
Good.
You have this. I don't know what this is.
That'd be good. If we
Oh, that was that.
got a lot of chip seal roads that could use a shoulder.
Well, and every time we do an overlay, like we're gonna do L this year, that raises that up
That
out
much,
there
you got
quite a
that
bit,
much.
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, and it's like we did a lot of overlay or shoulder work on 25 last year. Still got some we need to go do because of that overlay and the way to get that profile.
Yeah.
It
Then
gets
it's hard
pretty.
to get the rock over on the
Yeah,
side
it is.
without messing up
It
your
is. It is.
paving.
So this is something that's been in the county road department's mind for several years. They've
Yeah.
tried
Finally found something that may
well
fit it.
blades and rubber blades and this, that, and the other, and it's hard. It's hard. And you can do it with the blade, but it doesn't stay even. You know, it gets weird and
Yeah.
wastes a lot of material.
Yeah.
So, something we may look at. I got a meeting Wednesday with James and the BLM down at the pit, Tozier Pit. Did James mention that? It's something to do with maybe turning our pit into a shooting range, and they want to go look at that. And well, I mean, after we're done with it. So I got Randy coming in. He'll go with me. He knows more history down there than I ever will. So, you know, we leased that property from Tozier's, but that's just the property we set the material on. We have a BLM permit to make crushing up in the mining. Yeah. So they want to visit with us about that, plus some Sand Canyon parking lot and stuff. So we'll be going down there with them on Wednesday. Fiber optic on Road L, supposed to be there this week to wrap that up and get
I
that.
understand you're hooked up to fiber optic.
By golly, we are.
I heard that.
Jim needs a battaboy for that one. That's been 4 years. He told me that the day I started here.
I know. And it finally arrived.
We're almost, we got phones. That's good. So
Good.
So
While I'm thinking of it, we're going through files in here, and we have a couple of files a couple drawers of files that have pit information that maybe we ought to have Virginia come look at.
yeah,
I don't know where the best place for it is, if you guys want it.
yep, box them up and bring them over. I'll do that.
I'll have her come look at it and see.
It might be all repeat, but it's good to get. We got all of
Be good
ours
to go
whittled
through.
down to what we need.
Yeah.
All the old stuff that was deleted and gone is gone now. So
So I
Yeah.
don't have any idea, and you
Okay.
guys would know way better than I would. So I just keep forgetting to tell her. I have this one.
oh yeah, this is our new motto. When they started driving a different route to avoid us, we started doing work on that road too. I thought that looks like us. The guys got tickled with that one.
Oh, that
So,
they did.
anyway,
Started doing work on that road too.
I think
You
that's
can't
all
get
I
away from us.
got. No, we're going to be in your nightmares every day if you can. Any questions?
No. Yeah.
Well, we're just moving right along. So
Good.
try to get the grinder here this month or
You
March.
still have pothole guys out there?
Oh, I don't have. I should go do them. It's been so cold, but I see some coming up. You got some in front of your house there?
Yeah, they're on.
Is that what that
26.
car was doing upside down in your driveway?
Well, I think that was more maybe
Oh, good.
just while we were driving. I don't think it was road conditions. I don't know for a fact, but on that southbound lane up
Yeah.
there by Denby's Drive, up in there, there's a couple of really big ones really busting out.
Yeah, they're.
That road's getting pounded, man. It
It's
is
supposed to.
getting
Temperatures are
pounded.
supposed to warm up here this week and a little bit. If I can get some in the shop, I'll be able to get some in there. But yeah, you're right. So
Can get above freezing.
if I can get above freezing, yeah.
That helps.
There's another big one up on Road M where you're going up the next road over where you're working,
Mhm.
putting the new gravel. Once you get up to that chip seal up on top,
On Mary, going east,
you know, Mary turns into some 30.
29.
No,
Be past 29, it'd be going up to.
you go through Cache Canyon.
Oh, up there, yeah.
And you go up there on Summit, and then it goes to paved road where it comes out where Gonzalez used to live.
Yep.
Highway 184. There's
31.
There's a big one.
Okay. We got that stuff that you get in the bag. It's very expensive for the really bad ones on a cold day.
You have to have a certain temperature to make that stuff.
It works pretty good in the cold, but it takes a lot of bags, and it's
Yeah.
really expensive.
But you made some a
Mhm.
deal with some
Cold mix?
cold mix.
We got it. It's just when it's this time of year.
This
It's
time of year, it's just no good to put in.
yeah. It's just you gotta. Well, it's hard right now. So
Yeah.
Do you have to heat it up, or
put it in the shop, and sometimes you can put it on a truck and put it in the shop for a few
I've
days.
seen some guys with torches on that
We
stuff
do
at
that.
time too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
weed
Weed
burners?
burner. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some other stuff that when we were in December, it was new kind of stuff. Do you remember that?
It's that. It's. I don't remember the name of it, but we've tried it. We bought it. There's stuff in a bucket, and you pour it out, and then it gets that way.
Burns up.
That didn't work.
Mhm.
No, that wasn't very good. The best stuff is that stuff we get from Ames. They sell it out of Grand Junction, but it's extremely expensive.
Expensive.
And that's what we did last year. Finally, when it got so bad, we just went and bought a truckload of that and brought it down. So we'll try to hang in there as long as we can and catch a warm day and get some more good stuff and warm it up and put it in the shop for a day or two and try that. So
That little gal ended up plumb upside down, man. I wasn't home. I wasn't home at the time, but I
I
got
told her,
pictures of it.
please tell me there's not a pothole sitting right there.
No, I think there were other causes.
Good.
To that. Yeah.
At least it wasn't me.
No, yes.
No, you were zipping down the other road.
No, I was zipping. Not a zipper.
Oh, that was funny.
Not me.
Not no more,
Mm.
huh? All right, Rob. Thanks, man.
I have a driver under influence, so I'm trying to be a good influence.
You're trying to be a good example for that young man.
Yes.
There you go.
Ask Lori to come on up, but I do have, we could do transfer orders if you don't mind.
Okay.
If I can find them.
I got them. I know they're in here. Transfer orders. Here we
But I
go.
didn't put them.
I've just got number 3.
I have more. Let me find them.
Oh yeah, they're on your original email to us with our schedule and
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, 1, 2.
I can do it that way.
There
I have them too. I was just trying to get them for the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So many places you have to put stuff. Oops. Getting closer. Nope, that's.
Did you find them?
I think so.
Did you send them to us in that email
Here
when
they
you
are.
sent us our agenda and everything on
Oops.
Thursday?
Come on. There's a lot of stuff in there.
You didn't get this email from Melissa? Huh?
No, that's.
Shows our agenda and all that stuff.
It was on the same with the agenda. There were
Mhm.
just a ton of.
Yeah, you had
attachments to
7
it.
of them. 7 of them. Didn't get all the other attachments. Well,
Order number 1, number 2.
these computers, you can't trust them, James.
Well,
they
and-
don't always treat you the same.
And these ladies, I copied the agenda 3 different times,
Yeah,
and it only goes so far. I don't know if its memory can only hold so much,
yeah.
because I added a little bit more, but then I went back and see that it only added a little bit, but it didn't
Huh.
add all of it.
Huh.
But on other agendas, we've had the entire agenda for the day when it was 3 pages long.
And that's why I don't understand what's, I mean, when it was a
Why
lot.
it would constrict it or cut some of it off?
We have some cleanup transfer orders.
Yeah.
This first order, the check came and it said Montezuma County Weed Department for $9,691.75. Bonnie was trying to figure out what it really matched, so she put it in her account, but come to find out, it was the 3rd quarter emergency manager grant instead.
So it went to Paul.
It got put into the road and bridge fund and it needs to be moved to the general fund.
Okay. We're good with that.
And then number 2 is one of the things that we found out through what we're learning. There was a couple of grants. Oops, there's a typo right there, I can see. A couple of grants got put into the sheriff's fees account. The treasurer automatically transfers everything that she sees that is treasurer's fees, but she won't transfer any grants without an order. So what we have is there was 2 specific grants that were in that account. And then there's also actually NSF checks, that's from before 2018. So with this $9,866.44, it will put all of that money into the general fund where it needs to go based on these 2 grants, and this 168's been being carried for a couple of years.
Was that
in that account.
NSF fees that they collected for insufficient checks written to the treasurer?
Probably so, back and forth, transferring the
Yeah.
money, you know, putting the
It's
money
not,
back
it's
in
not
there.
any of our departments writing in,
No.
it's not a.
No,
okay.
it was from fees that were paid to the
Paid.
sheriff's office,
Gotcha.
and they got transferred back and forth.
Firearm buybacks, you know what that program's about?
I do not know. We'll have to ask the sheriff.
Yeah,
It was something that they got money for from some kind of agency.
yeah.
Was that just recently?
It was in 2017.
Wow.
Both of these were. Because I got to the end of the year and I'm going, how come this didn't go to zero? How come we didn't move all the money? And they said, well, we can't because these are grants.
Mhm.
And we
I
only
just wonder
transfer the
where
fees.
the guns go. I know we had that undersheriff that was selling them on the black market.
I don't think he gave us some money on that.
That was the sellback, not the buyback, Larry Don. That was sellback.
And these potentially may be when I believe that when an officer leaves, that he can buy the one that
But
he,
there's some programs that are statewide programs of trying getting guns out of
oh,
people's hands, and they do these buyback. They grant monies to do buybacks of guns to get certain
these
types
were
of
in
weapons.
in-
Yeah, so
in
this I don't
custody or something?
I
I
don't
don't,
believe so,
I honestly don't know.
and I don't know if it has anything to do with this or not. But I've seen different buyback programs where they're trying to get guns off the street and different things, and they'll pay you for a gun.
And the
But we ought
third,
to have the sheriff tell us exactly what that's about, because I don't
they'll
have any
be
idea what it's
coming
about.
in pretty quick. And the third one, I was estimating how much money we needed to transfer for LEA. When we got the year end completed, now we actually need to move $68,000 from the general fund back to the LEA, so the LEA will have more
Because you
money.
knew that was coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what those three
Okay.
are.
I would like to move that order number 1-2018, order number 2-2018, and order number 3-20-18 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve orders number 1, 2, 3 in 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And this morning we have, Josiah was at a meeting, so Lori's gonna do the, social services.
Okay.
I just shot her an email that says we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
so
and here
we'll
she
be-
is, I'll tell you what.
You know?
I don't know, it's out of town though.
Good morning.
Is that one in Denver? Is he in Denver?
I don't think it's Denver.
But it was something, probably the Western Slope, something, it was a meeting he had to attend in person.
Mhm.
We're trying to reallocate those TAF, or what do they call it?
TANF
TANF,
funds,
TANF.
temporary
I was
assistance to
just
needy
wondering if that's
families.
what it was.
I don't know.
Do you need oh, you have a pen. I couldn't see it in your hand.
Melissa, where was that number that you saw for the EBT cards, the 799,000?
It was on the accounts payable.
That's for January, was that for
Yes,
January?
that was January.
Okay.
That was an alarming number that shocked us all.
Yeah, there, was that food stamps in the month of January?
On this page,
Yes, the EBT.
that was a combined of the TANF.
Oh, okay, so that was all those combined, okay.
Yes.
All of those
Yeah.
numbers come from,
Because food stamps was 552, there we go.
here you go, and actually this is good to see, because all we saw was this number right
Yeah,
here.
and I thought that was our food stamps had jumped that much, or so it's a
So-
combination of,
Food stamps actually went down, it seems like they were around 600.
Yeah.
they have been.
They did go down a little.
I know that we approved the record of proceedings for the Board of Social Services for Monday, February 5th, 2018.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the record of proceedings for the Social Services Department. For the, what did you say?
February
Yeah,
5th.
it's up top. February 5th.
February 5th, 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Then it looks like on the financials here, I mean, here's the this is nice to see what that breakout was. But
Mhm.
the EBT cards are issued to
To-
people, and then whatever programs they're in, if I'm incorrect, let me know. Whatever programs they're in, then that allocation is given to them automatically on their card.
Card.
So if you have
Childcare, there's all kinds of
old,
stuff on those
old age
EBT cards,
pension
right?
and
I
low
gotcha.
income energy and food
Mm.
stamps, they give you $50 here and $20 there, and however that goes. So they have one card that does all of those
Gotcha.
programs.
Gotcha, okay. That makes a lot more sense then.
And then, so that's what that part is. I'm learning about social services a little bit.
So you're at 9%.
On the
or-
expenditures to date, budget, we should be at 8%, and they're at 9% on each one of these, and I'm going to guess, right here, looky here, other includes remodel,
Mhm.
37%, so that one's a
That's
little
good.
bit over.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of money, and I'm so excited. I'm excited, I think, except looking at all the junk I have to move. That part over there is gonna be so nice. It's gonna be, I mean, we're really doing a nice facelift.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a nice work
Well,
area.
We're gonna make some efficiencies and hopefully some efficiencies for social services and there's a lot of benefits that are gonna come out of this.
And we're gonna probably get to hear from Lori because she's moving to the 3rd floor and she's got extra steps to go now.
Well,
But she also has an elevator if she
That-
needs it.
that's,
Get my
Oh.
exercise in.
yeah, there you go, that's your fitness plan, yeah, part of your fitness program.
And
There
she's
you
gonna
go.
call me and say, come up and see me, and say, I can't go the stairs.
Yeah. But the view you have up there is spectacular.
Yeah, this is gonna be nice.
You
I'm
were-
excited.
It is, it's beautiful, it's gonna be really nice. I would move that the financial statement for the Department of Social Services for January 31st, 2018 be approved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the financial statement for Social Services Department for January 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And we do, I'll let Laura explain this one a little bit more. I've got it up on the screen if you wanna see.
Oh, application for Clara Armiston?
Yeah. And I need a motion on it if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about it, or is that maybe we should have to private?
It's, well, I can't tell you who, but it's
But-
that cancer, fund that
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
And,
It's probably more than that.
oh, yeah.
38,000, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that.
And we don't have requests, I think
This is
in
only
my,
the second one that I remember.
only the second one that I can remember in
Yeah.
Right,
There's
there
4
you go.
years I've been here.
Yeah.
I would have approved the 2,152.77 from the Arlington funds for the cancer nurse.
Second.
Lori, in that case, do you write a check for that, or how
I
does
write
that?
a check, you guys have to put an order in for the treasurer to move that money from their account to our account.
Okay,
Oh,
so in the meantime, if it's okay with you guys, I will go ahead and I'll write the transfer order number 4, so
Yes.
that this amount of money, the 2,152.77, will go into the social services fund.
you want us to approve that?
Yeah, that
I
will,
would like to amend my, motion to include the transfer order number 4, 2018 be accepted as well.
Second. For the amended.
Been moved and seconded to approve transfer order number 4, 2018 for $2,152.77 from the Clara Armiston Fund to the
social
Social
services,
Services Department.
And you guys have this,
yeah.
Aye.
We'll get a form, I'll have a form, and Kim makes an actual thing from the minutes and gives that to Sherry, and then Sherry will take care of that.
okay.
As soon as I get a copy of that, then I'll make sure you have a copy so that you know that the money
money's
is
there.
in your
The
account.
money's there.
So probably, maybe by tomorrow.
Okay.
So does Josiah then review the application and decide if this is a good?
Luann actually does it, but then Josiah looks at it also, and then we present it to you. To approve.
Gloria, is there a maximum amount a person could apply for from the Armiston Fund? Are there limits on that?
I think
I
there
mean,
should be.
yeah.
I'm not for sure if it's actually in writing with her will,
I got you. And
But-
how it was laid out, how that
Yeah.
fund was laid
Yeah.
out.
because it could be gone
I was gonna
very
say,
quick.
yeah, $38,000 doesn't won't go very far in the right circumstances. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, the other one that we did, if I recall, was in the
It's right around
$2,500 range, so
So
I
then
don't know
maybe-
if that's kind of a rule of thumb. I don't have any idea.
We try to keep ours that way, but I know Dolores County has access to it too.
To this one?
Oh, really?
And I've never seen anything come from,
Yeah.
and so would that transfer order come from them?
Um,
That, because I'm thinking,
assuming it does.
I'm just looking at, because it's actually doing something in the audit here. Because it's listed on, do they have a separate one from us? I don't know, because, this one, we've got 38,853 as the end of December 2016. And I don't recall, I mean, I recall one time that we put the one amount out, so I don't know if they have a separate fund, or if their treasurer holds theirs,
theirs.
because I don't think it would have, if that would have come from Dolores County, we'd have had to know about it because it's in our audit. So I'm guessing that they have a separate fund held by their,
Maybe
Treasure.
their commissioners have to approve theirs.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
not
sep-
sure.
I'm guessing, but I'll call up there
Maybe
and
worth
find
a
out.
phone call, yeah. We were finding
I
out.
thought I had to sign something that the sheriff had made me sign for them.
For Claire Ormiston?
I thought so.
Why don't you guys ask? I mean, it used to be that we had the same director for both counties.
Right.
We don't.
Yeah,
So
that
we
might,
just-
that,
we
that
just
could have been,
Okay.
that could have been part of it, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
what? Oh, we could do that. And then we'll do put the transfer with it too.
There's a place on the bottom.
So we'll get that with the transfer order, and Kim will give us all three pages. Cool.
Okay. I'm good? Go. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Check, I guess we're ready for you.
He brought all kinds of stuff.
Thank you.
Good morning. I don't know if you can call me sunshine, but it's warming up, right?
All right, good morning, Midnight.
Let me pull all these up here. You gave me all kinds of stuff this time.
Yeah, we can start with whichever one.
I'm just trying to get them where you can see them. Can't say that I can read them. I'm gonna start with this one.
Sure. Go ahead and make them big enough where we can see it. Didn't get to make it to in January because I ended up with jury duty, so we didn't get that report. So.
You got paid?
No. So what happened was we went in there and filled out our little cards and gave them to them, and then we sat there. We watched a video, and then we sat there for like an hour. And then the bailiff came out and asked us to rise for the judge, and they said the council's reached an agreement and sent us all home. It was time well spent.
You met all kinds of people, huh?
You appreciate the video?
Oh, yeah.
From what
Learning about
year
them.
was it made? Is it an updated one?
No. Do they update those?
I don't know, I'm just curious.
I've seen it updated in my career. I don't think it's super old.
You can tell by the clothes that we're wearing. Okay.
Within the last decade, right?
Well, we can see if we can't get you on jury duty.
I'd like right where they know that they don't know where I'm at.
Good night. All right, so
I didn't, see what the totals are. So we got December and year to date.
correct.
So here's his revenue.
So we took in substantially more than we thought we would over the course of the year. mostly in part because of the Kinder Morgan cleanup that was going on, which bailed us out of our situation with our bulldozer. That ended up costing quite a bit. And then if you just want to scroll to the bottom,
This is kind of a neat thing right there. Is that how,
Right.
what you did in,
so that's what we paid out in recyclables for people's cardboard, paper, whatever.
so people are recycling?
Correct. People are recycling. So those are the checks we cut every month to FCRI, Waste Management. Some people bring in small quantities and we pay them individually, whatever. So for the total for the year, it looks like a big number, but remember we purchased the extra dirt moving equipment. Rather than let all that hang out and draw interest, we paid off the interest on that John Deere 9530 and the scraper that went with it. We made 2 payments early, basically, so that left us with $52,000 and some change for the year. So that's how we finished last year. Now let's see. I want to look at.
Pretty good job with that kind of money you're talking about.
Did you get your voting right?
We did. It's on site. That's on site. Haven't had a whole lot of mud, but we had a little bit. Had a whole lot of wind.
Yeah.
That's kept the mud down. Been closed a couple times for that.
Do you want 18?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get 18 out of the way, and we'll talk a little bit more about next year. So this is where we're starting the year off this year. Our income is a little bit lower than we thought it would be for January, but that's okay. If we'll go all the way down. Of course, we're front-loaded with bills, with all the insurance and that kind of stuff. So that's just the way it is every January. We're front-loaded with the bills, but knock on rock, we won't have any major repairs this year. I guess that was wood. I'll get it right eventually.
Just get the luck going is all we ask.
So, for right now, we're starting the year in a lag, but that's how it is, front-end loaded with bills. The next thing I'd like to bring up here is I'm trying to...
That one diversion rate?
Well, let's do the CDPHE goals first.
Want that bigger? I can go bigger.
Let's go to the second page of it first, if you don't mind. I'll go slightly in order. So everybody remembers the CDPHE's Integrated Solid Waste and Materials Management Plan that they're pushing through. Without legislation, these are the goals that they're shooting for. Obviously, we're not Front Range. We're considered rest of the state. So they want our diversion by 2021 to be at 10%. And if they get the legislative teeth that they want by 2021, they want to triple that.
Pretty hard to do, wasn't it?
It's going to be pretty difficult to do, but here is their plan moving forward. If you want to scroll back up, Melissa, to the first page. Yes, ma'am, the first box. Thank you. So this is what they have in mind, and right now there's nobody that's they're going forward with this. Whether they can get teeth to enforce it or not will be up to the legislature, but they're setting these goals whether they get the teeth or not. So, 5-year plan. What's that?
Are you gonna pay for all that? Is that a demand?
You get it. Bingo.
So that would be a good thing for you to call them and ask.
Yeah, I think that would be an appropriate. What kind of funds are going to come to our landfill to implement their requirements?
Well, even if they send us funds, the only way they're going to get it is to take it from us first.
Well, I
So-
think you need $125 an hour to review this stuff, don't you?
I think, well, I sent
Or
them
maybe
a review on
150.
it, but
Maybe 150 for you.
yeah. Anyways, the first year they want transfer stations, which would be the Dolores County Transfer Station and also Toyoak, to take recyclables at no charge. So that would mean getting some of those roll-off containers or whatever they would have to do. Also, food scrap generators of 104, TPY stands for ton per year, must be delivered, must divert material to any certified facility within 20 miles. Well, we're within 20 miles of the casino, City Market, Safeway, Walmart, the
systems.
hospital. I don't know if the school systems quite make 104 ton per year out of
Don't
food.
you?
I don't know, but that's 2 ton a week. Where we are with the 5 I just mentioned is about 21 tons a week.
Yeah.
So
That blows me away.
I'll give some input on that in a second. Let's go through the rest of what they have in store for us. The second year, they want to implement a pay-as-you-throw statewide. I don't know how they would implement that for the haulers, but we already charge based on weight, so that wouldn't affect us too much. Then this one's going to be interesting in rural areas. They want to ban recyclables from landfill. That would include cardboard, paper, plastic, aluminum, tin, glass.
Steel, metals.
Right.
So no one could put that in their trash.
Right. And they've already moved forward with some of this in Boulder County. They have a cardboard ban. And they've actually, the way they're enforcing it is they've hired, I guess, a dumpster cop, for lack of better terms, that goes around and opens people's dumpsters. And if there's cardboard in there, the first fine is $100 and each consecutive is $1,000.
Ooh.
I don't know how they would plan to enforce that in rural areas, but I see it going over kind of like a concrete cloud. I think it's well-intentioned, trying to divert recyclables from landfills. I think it's a well-intentioned goal. However, I don't think a mandate's going to lead to anything but filled up arroyos and ditches. Also in the second year, they want transfer stations and drop-offs to accept leaf and yard debris. That would be for composting. They also want haulers to offer residential recycling at no extra charge or embedded. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but usually when there's hidden fees, the government cracks down on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but apparently in this case, they want to mandate it. But obviously, haulers can't send an extra truck out with an extra operator costing extra insurance and extra fuel at no charge. So they're going to have to pass that on in one form or another. After that, still second year, public buildings would be required to provide recycle containers adjacent to solid waste containers, except restrooms. And so I'm not sure who all would be covered under public buildings. I think most businesses are considered private, but
We do have.
We've already
the
got
county does. The county does.
There's one on the second floor and over at Annex 1. We've got, not that people can read and understand the difference between plastic and paper and aluminum, but we do have those containers.
Then in year 2 also, this 104 tons per year goes down to 52 tons per year. So that would be anybody making food scraps of a ton or more a week would be required to divert for composting.
Is that possibly, when do you think the schools would get hit?
I'm
Year 2 or
thinking
year 3?
that the schools would probably be hit in year 4 when it goes to 18 tons per year. But then year 3, they want to ban leaf, yard, and clean wood waste would be banned from the landfill as well. I know, so my scale operators are going to have to ask people when they show up, do you have any paints, burn barrels, appliances, batteries, electronics, tires, asbestos, paper, cardboard, glass, plastic, tree branches, yard waste. And if they do, they're going to have to separate it. Yeah, I mean, they haven't got to a mattress ban yet, I suppose. But, year 3, they would want haulers to offer yard waste collection. Fortunately, they didn't put it no extra cost, but again, now you've got another truck running around. And then the food scraps would be cut again to 26. And then the 4th year, transfer stations and drop-offs would have to accept food scraps for composting. And then the haulers would have to offer food scrap collection year 4. So, I mean, out in front of everybody's house, you're going to have a bin for recyclables, a bin for yard waste, a bin for food waste, a bin for... I'm not sure how that's going to go over with the bear-proof containers in Dolores. We'll see when we get there, I guess. And then the food scraps drops to 18 years, and then in year 5 they want to ban food waste from the landfill too. So that's what we're looking at. Based on looking at what the state's rolling at us, now whether they'll be able to get the force behind them to put teeth into this or not, this is what they're shooting for. And I think it would behoove us to stay ahead of the curve. With that in mind, Melissa, can you go to the
This one?
2017 diversion, please, ma'am? So here's where we're at for 2017. Our amount of landfill material went up 3.4%. Now, I think that's partially due to the fact that we just skipped winter this year. Usually we slow down October, November, December. We never did this year because everybody kept doing what they did. There was no winter. Our cardboard, we did almost 5,500 tons. That's up 3.2%. At the same time, our paper went down almost the same amount. But still, 2,500 ton of paper. Our plastic went up significantly. When you think about how many plastic bottles it takes to make 100,000 pounds, that's a lot of plastic bottles, so that was good. Our single stream is down just a hair. Our electronics is up 4%. Our tires went way down, and that is due in part to the health department getting the grant last year to take the 1,000 at no charge. So obviously we're down quite a bit from that. And tires are heavy, so that dropped our overall weight. Our yard waste is up 11%. I think that's partially due to, remember last January we got that super wet snow and there were tree branches everywhere. I think that helped a lot in that diversion.
And so that goes directly up to the top.
And that goes to the limb pile and we shred it to be composted, yes ma'am. Then our biosolids, which is the silt that we're using from the sanitation district with the compost, they installed a new press to get a drier material. And so good for them. They're able to reutilize more water out of that. But it took our diversion on that, which is also heavy, down 36%.
Wow.
I don't know what 136% of 1,200 is, but it's right around 1,500. We went down a lot because of that. And then we estimate that we upcycled approximately 2 tons. We obviously don't weigh everything that goes in and out, but we do know we had 4 pianos. Those weigh quite a bit, several lawnmowers. So that's an estimated number there. So our total diverted tons for 2017 was just shy of 2,500, which is down 20% from the year before because of the tons, the tires and the biosolids. Would you scroll down just a hair more, please?
Oops. Didn't know it was more.
So, 2,464.13 divided by the amount landfill gave us a diversion rate for the year of 10%. Last year, with the extra biosolids and tires, we were at 13%. But 10% is the goal that the state's mandating, so you can tell we don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. So if you would, let's see,
And what
go
would you
to...
do if we don't make the 40%?
Well, they're trying to get legislative action to be able to put teeth behind it. Right now, there's nothing they can do, but can they get the legislative teeth in the next 5 years? I don't know. But if we wait until the mandate has teeth behind it to get in front of the ball, we're going to be in trouble. So,
Where are you going to get that 30% from?
well, that's what I'd like to talk to you about. Melissa, if you'd go to this one.
Shaq always has answers.
Somebody told me once not to come up here with a problem unless I had a solution to go with. This is the waste composition figured by the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments. They did a waste audit that included,
When did they do that?
I think the date might be on the bottom,
That's
but
what I
it's it was October of 2014 if I remember.
I don't have a date there.
But the waste composition generally for Southwest Colorado is, as we see here, 25% is about paper, and this includes all paper, cardboard and paper. All paper products are included in that. Then plastics are about 12%, metal even less, and glass even less, and then everything else in here. The biggest section of that is the organics, 37.5%, by far the biggest portion of that. And if you'd scroll down to the next page down here, please.
I don't have.
Oh, did I do it in two things? What's this
There
one
too.
here?
It's a separate.
Was it a separate?
It's not that.
Is this the Southwest Colorado compares?
Yes.
Let me.
It's right, yeah, right, should be right next to that last one.
I didn't save it. Let me go back and find it.
Okay.
I'll get there.
While we're waiting, you want to see a magic trick? You guys can dwell on that while we get this figured out.
At least you should have a landfill joke or something, Shaq.
I can't tell it, it's too dirty.
Oh, it's yeah,
It's really that's the one.
There we go. Kim, did I print this one? Okay, good.
So, this is how Southwest Colorado compares to everywhere else. The United States as a whole is composting about 8%, and recycling about 26%, and disposing of the rest. The state of Colorado as a whole is composting 3%, and recycling 19%, and the rest is being disposed of. Southwest Colorado, the 5 counties involved in that, are composting 1%, but that's the biggest percent of the waste stream. It's 37.5% of the waste stream, but we're
Right.
doing the least with it.
Right.
As I mentioned before, it also is the most beneficial to deal with because of when we get the organics out of the waste stream, we prevent leachate and we prevent
Methane.
methane. And not only that, but we don't have to send it to Oklahoma, China, Albuquerque, wherever. We make a product out of it that people want and need right here, so the money stays here as well. So, in my opinion, instead of chasing after diversion from things that weigh less and accomplish less, I think that we ought to move forward looking at the organics, since they want to ban those from landfills anyway. I would like to, just like we did when we had to change up the recycling to deal with the national sword from China, have all the haulers come in here and see what they can do with it. Now, I can't go directly to the supermarkets and offer them anything because we're not in the hauling business. However, I think we should see what we can do to get the haulers on board. Seeing if we can get those organics diverted. One, because they're going to end up being banned by the big producers soon anyway, maybe as soon as next year. And two, because we get the most benefit and the most weight out of it.
Sure.
So with the board's permission, I'd like to call for another meeting of the haulers and see what we can do on that. In addition to composting, though, we've got to imagine from 21 tons of food a week, there's probably some of that food is still usable. So Melissa Matthews and I were talking, and maybe there's a way that we could get together with the supermarkets, maybe bring Josiah into the conversation and see if there's something that can be done with the usable food before we go to the composting. So we don't necessarily know what that solution looks like yet, but it seems like throwing away 21 tons of food a week is borderline criminal. So with the board's permission, I'd like to move forward trying to strategize with the haulers and the supermarkets about what can be done to divert that. I think it'll do the most to boost our diversion goals, and I think it'll do the most good environmentally, plus all the money would stay local.
Maybe Trump can put that food in those lunch boxes he's talking about. through social services.
Yep, maybe so.
So they have rules about what they have to get rid of? I mean,
I'm sure that they have rules, and I don't understand what regulates what with the supermarkets. I do know on my end, obviously a produce compost would be worth more than a biosolid compost, because it gets rid of some of the fears that might be associated with the biosolids. So on my end, what I would plan to do is charge enough on the outgoing for the compost that I wouldn't have to charge the haulers for the weight of the produce coming in, so long as it's separated. And that'll knock out,
Yeah, that'll help.
that'll knock out part of the problem without a mandate and without an additional tax.
And an incentive for the haulers.
And an incentive for the haulers, correct. And now I'm not sure what they can offer to the stores, because they've still got the equipment hours and man hours of going and collecting it, but it's going to do two things for the stores. It would reduce the number of garbage pulls they have, because if they pull the organics out, the regular garbage side should take a little longer to fill up. And then I imagine the pulls for the organics should be cheaper if the hauler isn't getting billed to unload it.
Mm-hmm.
do you want to come up, Melissa? Do you have anything to add?
Well, I don't know, we kind of got on this mission about trying to save the world, I think. But, you know, this kind of goes along the lines of the article that was put in the paper.
Do you want to come up here so they can hear you? Just so that you're being recorded properly.
Okay. So this kind of goes along the line of the article that was put in the paper about the gap in services. People that are able or qualified to receive services and the people who don't actually take the services. So we know there's a gap in food. You know, we know that there's hungry children still out there. We have several schools that do the backpack programs. So going along the lines of usable food, talking to the stores and finding out maybe where most of their waste is generated. Because they do, again, certain standards. You know, we're pretty spoiled as a society. We don't want to buy an apple that has a bruise on it. So a lot of times they will discard that. It's still a usable product. Could we put it in our commodities? Could we put it in our backpack programs? I mean, they're whole fruits and vegetables. There's no reason why they would need refrigeration at that point. You know, we have a large elderly community. Could they benefit from the usable products? So it's big. It's bigger than, you know, what we want to think about. But
So when we think fruits and vegetables and things like that, even like breads and things like that?
those are already being donated.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Meat,
Make us,
dairy, and breads are receiving all of those.
okay,
Mhm.
because I was thinking that they have that in Memphis where they bring over the day-old bread or
Yeah,
whatever for
absolutely.
people to pick up. So
Absolutely. But again, looking at the products that are, like even at our soup kitchens, you know, they're donuts and cookies, really not substantially healthy foods. Those populations are more highly susceptible. So are we really benefiting by donating those types of foods? And again, our elderly, you know, they're already calorie restricted. So we need to kind of give them the most calories that we can possibly do. So, like I said, it's a big issue. We just need to start asking a lot of questions. But with the mandate, it's going to be a lot easier to start talking with these companies now, because it's going to be a total behavior change. You know, they're going to have to train their employees on what they can dispose and what is still considered a usable product. Where are we going to store that usable product? Who's going to come pick that up and distribute it to the necessary people? So it's huge. It's a big issue, but we have to start somewhere. So.
Well, some of the, yeah.
Problem. Having him bring in the hauler.
I think you should proceed with whatever becomes feasible and start contacting who you need to contact, see if we can
Well, and there's
start
grants available.
eating this elephant, yeah.
Yeah, there's grants available
Sure.
right now through EPA wanting to get on board with this. So it's just a matter of finding passionate people who want to make the change.
Do you think you'll have another waste tire grant?
I don't even want to talk about
I
that.
know.
Hey, we like
So-
that deal.
But it was a huge success.
I'm very discouraged with my waste tire program right now. I have been promised now for 2 years that they were gonna come down and do a cleanup of these properties that have mounds of tires. And, I don't know if I'm the redheaded stepchild right now. I can't, I get no input, there's no site visits been,
Is that
conducted.
CDPHE?
You know, they've got a really, I can't remember what year, I wanna say by 2020, they have to have all of the tires removed out of all the monofills in the state. So we're looking at about 60 million tires that have to find another use. So I think honestly, they're trying to do that right now. I think a lot of their resources there's only like 3 people in the whole state that take care of waste tires.
Yeah.
But I'd like to add something to that waste tire thing. We had a person wanting to build an earthship home with sand ram tires and asked if they could come get tires. And because I have to report where all my tires go at the end of each year, Shayna up at CDPHE said, well, you can do that, but we have to have all their engineer drawings and all this and that. And the people that were going to build the house didn't want to
Go
give
through
the
all
state
that.
all that and jump
Sure.
through all the hoops. So they ended up not doing it. So out of one side of their mouth, they're pushing all these mandates, and out of the other side, they're putting as many obstacles in the way as possible. So
Well, you know, the gentleman that we met with up in the health department that wants to do, you know, they came out and said that there has been proven, he went into a long dissertation about now how tires can be used in landfills or not landfills, but in retaining walls, that they've been approved, they're not toxic to the environment, they can be used in all these different ways where before there was question about whether so is that going to be a feasible way for us to maybe start disposing of? Because to me it sounds like we could use them at the landfill for berming, for retaining wall retainage.
I don't know, we could use all that's in the county, but we already do bale and use some for retaining walls.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
ones we
just-
get split,
Well, and that's
we
what
do
this
bale
gentleman
and
was wanting to do, he's wanting to bail, and, I don't, Colorado still does not see baled tires as an end use. I mean, they want them either burned as fuel or shredded for playgrounds or, you know,
okay.
made into shoes or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what they want to do. There's a huge list of beneficial uses for waste tires.
Yeah. Erosion control.
Yes, and going
Oh.
back with retaining walls and fences and things like that.
Yeah.
But what they need to understand is in Montezuma County, we do not have building codes also. So if somebody wants to build a home out of used tires, that's between their insurance company and themselves. I mean, that's my opinion. Because we don't have anything structurally set in place for a waste tire. So, I don't know, like I said, I'm really not happy with that program right now.
They kind of left you out there and left
Well,
you spinning in the
it's
wind.
easy to go do the tire inspections at Big O, 4 States, whatever.
Sure.
That's a piece of cake.
Sure.
You know, they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So to me, it's almost like a waste of my resources. So I don't know if I'm going to ask to have that grant reapplied for. What I would like to do is more on the educational piece and start talking to people about, hey, this is what waste tires do. You could make, you know, XYZ out of waste tires, and trying to promote more recycling on that instead of, I mean, we've had several property owners that are upset with their neighbor who it's a vacant property and there's used tires out there, you know. I don't know if it defaces or if it brings down the value of that property. I really don't know that. But there's really no teeth there. I mean, I can't go do anything about it. Yeah, I could say, you know what, you really can't have those waste tires on your property, but I don't have teeth.
There's nothing to.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to
Yeah.
make them not do
And when
that?
I took the grant, their whole philosophy or direction was, we just want to know where all the waste tire piles are, and we will come and we will take care of it. So I've done that, you know,
And
and it's
that- and-
continuous because
yeah.
I'll be driving somewhere in the county
You'll
and be
see.
like, well, son of a gun, there's another one. So you know,
And they seem to grow.
yes, they do.
But it goes back to what Shaq said, and that is if the county created policy, well, you can't have those race tires. There is no in use. So, in this county anyway.
Yeah, so what are you gonna do with
What are you
that?
gonna do with them? You would put them in a catch-22, so you have to have
Mhm.
a chipper somewhere and saying, hey,
Right.
like they got up there in Olathe,
Mhm.
and we don't have that.
We would love that. You guys
Well-
wanna buy that for the landfill?
With the power
We've-
plant,
Well,
Hey, there would be a use for
we've
it.
talked about that with his with the tree branches and all the stuff that goes into his composting, and
Yeah.
I think there will come a day where that will become a financially feasible piece of equipment for him to have
Right.
because of the
Well, and it's
multi.
always the transportation end of it that costs the most. So it's all fine and dandy that we may have a program for that, but then to transport it where it needs to go,
Costs us
it
money.
costs a bunch of money.
you know, they have a power plant in Kirtland that's shutting down part of its coal operation. I don't see a problem doing waste energy and burning tires to make electricity. We've got plenty of them. But I'm not in the position
Well,
to do
and-
anything about
And
that.
they've got that we're sending tires to that very function over in
Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs, yeah. And they've come up with methods where it's not a heavily polluting deal to
Yeah,
burn
they
those
have
tires.
tons of filters on there.
Yeah,
None of that
and,
smoke gets
Well,
out.
and Salt Lake City offers great recycling for waste tires.
Yeah.
So,
It's just getting them there.
Yeah.
Costs you a lot of money.
The freight
get
to
them
get
there.
a load of tires to Salt Lake
Is
is
expensive.
Yeah.
expensive.
How many loads have we sent out?
To the one Colorado Springs, just the one.
Just
We're,
one?
we're about ready to send the second.
yeah, because you only taking about 300 tires a year, don't you?
300 to 400 a year. Last year we took in a lot more because of that grant.
Right.
That was a one-time deal.
Right,
So.
right. That was the other thing I forgot to mention. So the tire fee, gosh, now I'm not gonna remember how much it was. $1.55? Now it's gone down to 55 cents. So basically what that tells me is that waste tire fund is going away. So they're not going to be doing cleanups anymore because they want people to do what they're supposed to be doing with the tires. So if you buy 4 new tires, pay to have them recycled at the shops.
However, what you will find if you drive up to Cache Canyon or down to the
They
bridge
says,
at Oak Street.
no, I'll
or-
take care of those, put them in the back of my truck and I'll take care of them. You don't pay that
Well, and
recycling
you see
fee.
so many being sold on Facebook and,
Yeah.
you know, individuals buying used tires off of whatever, whether it's at No Todd Nay's parking lot on a Saturday or going on Facebook, they're taking a huge liability because,
Yeah.
you know, we don't know, whoever's selling that tire, they're not insuring those tires that they meet, 5/30 seconds or, we don't
Nothing.
know what kind of condition they were driven. So,
Mhm.
so people are taking a huge liability. I mean, I know there's emergency situations where you just need a spare tire or whatever, but it's just not a good idea to buy used tires.
Unless you're on a horse trailer.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and again, you look at situations like that. But if somebody's for an everyday driver or something, yeah, it might be great for a month or two. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's my struggle, is trying to educate the public on, how you could benefit, generating the tires or paying to have them disposed of, because the last thing you want to do is take them home and then something happens to you and you have to leave that to your family to take care of. So I don't know.
Well, it
Just
has
a
to do with
struggle.
money. Some people can't afford $250 a tire. They can only afford $100 tire.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. Yeah, I mean, I do. It's and you look at our community, and we're not a wealthy community. So,
Well, we're gonna need to move on.
yep.
You have anything
Thank you,
else?
guys.
I do
Yeah.
have one more thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
Big thing.
Just thinking.
Last year, the board had asked me to look into a alternative cover spray machine, and I reported back to the board with what it would cost and the amount of airspace it would save over the haul. And at that time, the board agreed to throw it into the budget for 2018. So here's the quote for the material and for the machine. That's I believe for the machine, 30,000. And if you want to scroll
The
down,
product
Melissa,
that comes out about 50,000, real close to it.
Oh, sorry.
30,000 plus 17, so just
How
shy
many
of.
parts water versus the solution?
You'd ask me that now. I could have told you that when I gave you the presentation, but you were absent that day, if I recall. I went through that. It's quite a bit because for what we're doing, we estimate 1.5 bags to 2 bags a day to cover
Cover
the
your
landfill.
face. How much space do you figure that'll save in your landfill, Shaq? I know that's probably a tough question to answer, but you put what, 6 to 8
Well-
inches of earth on that face every day?
Right, so we cover 6 inches every day to prevent fires, water infiltration, windblown litter, and vector control. So 6 inches a day, and then on top of that, when we're done with an area, we put another 18 inches of intermediate cover for the same reasons. So what the state usually requires when you start using alternative is that you still cover once a week with soil, and that you still go ahead with your intermediate cover. But it would save 6 inches a day, which is a lot of land, a lot of airspace.
Yeah.
So, and I presented all those numbers. I don't know who
Yeah,
remembers them.
I don't
Yes.
remember them, but
Back to what Commissioner Till said about the tires and the chipping
Mhm.
machine, because you can use data cover with.
Right, if
but
we get
is
approved
it
for
6
it.
inches? If it's tires, if it's chipped up tires?
It has to be enough to cover. And so, and that's one thing we can look at in the future is chip tires using for cover occasionally. It takes a lot of tires chipped up to cover even for a day. So
So would you chip them and set them aside and then just use a loader to put them in there, or how do you?
yes, we'd probably let them stack up until we had enough to chip and cover all at once.
mhm.
But
So if that was the case, if you could do that once a month or once every other week or something, I don't know, for the daily cover
Yeah,
and then the
whatever
posi
it
shell and then
was.
some dirt, you'd have to use a mixture of those
I-
three, or?
I know there's a ratio that's going to tell you how much longer that's going to make your landfill last before you have to go build a new cell.
right.
And
And I think it added to this cell something just
Yes.
over a year.
yeah, so
But a year is a lot of airspace.
yes, it is.
When you're talking about
Oh yeah,
$300,000 to kick down the road, that's a
yeah.
Have you seen, I think that, didn't they over there in Rio Grande County, did they?
they did. They went through their trial period with it and ended up purchasing the machine and stuff.
And they are satisfied with it?
They've had good luck with it. They've had good luck with it. So,
What's your feeling on this?
well, last year you guys told me to put it in the budget for this year. That's why I'm bringing it up.
And I would-
Do you still feel positive about it though?
I do.
Is it going to save
we
on
can-
your cat time and your operator's time and?
It will save the operator's time. It'll save landfill space. The only thing that's going to be a pain in the neck this initial year is once we get it on site, then we have to ask CDPHE's permission and go through a 6-month trial period with it. Even though they've approved it for other landfills, they have to reinvent the wheel at each landfill. So that's going to be kind of a pain in the neck, but if it's something we want to use, it's a hoop we have to jump through.
I guess it's-
I think
If you guys still want me to get it,
Sure.
it's about $50,000. So if you want me to start doing it, I'll get it in motion. But if not, that's fine too. We do have it in the budget for this.
I think in the long haul, that's going to save money. It's going to save space. It's going to make our landfill last longer. I think it's a good way to go. So
I'm for it too.
All right.
I'll make a motion. I would move that our landfill director proceed with the purchase of a what do you call it? Environmental coating applicator 550, ECA 550, and the amount of $30,150. And the product, the Posishell brown base mix, 32.5 bags of that at $15,600. And
17,851.
okay, excuse me, yeah, for a total of $17,851.86.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to have the landfill
Okay.
Purchase an environmental coating applicator. I assume that's a model number 550.
Mhm.
And the trailer and everything that goes with it, plus the product to do the spraying. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Boy, we barely made that.
You barely make it.
All right, well,
Thanks.
I've got you sufficiently behind schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah. Keep us posted on this organic stuff out of.
Yeah, and when you have a meeting with the haulers, we'd like to.
Probably be here
listen.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the Southwest Health System.
Mhm. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Morning, Kent. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Lambert, how are you?
How you?
Nope. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
I know you too, Gabby. Good morning.
You know her too, huh?
I know what you do with this. You get that one, okay? For the record.
Sure.
You had this, Melissa?
I didn't.
No. I will, we'll make sure we get it sent ahead of time.
Yeah, that'd be good for me.
Yeah, just,
I'd try to see her.
Sure.
You're talking
This,
37 million a year, that's impressive.
It's on mine. I don't know.
I can just scan it.
Okay.
Go ahead and start.
I left
talking
it,
now.
okay, all right. Yeah, y'all probably, you don't know everybody else that's here with me. This is Angela Coble. Angela is our chief financial officer and also our chief information officer. And Haley Saunders, who is our marketing public relations. And she has taken on a new life, multiple roles. If you go in her office right now, she has done a tremendous amount of work with finishes around our construction project. But she also keeps us on track with our timelines. And I'm going to let her go over at the end of our discussion this morning, kind of tell you where we are with construction. So just kind of let you know from a high level of what's going on with our health ministry in this community. We talk about things around 5 critical success factors: people, service, quality, finance, and growth. And we always put people first because our organization is very human driven. Technology and facilities are one thing, but if we don't have the right people in our organization, then it's very difficult to get good things done. We're up to, last count I took was 467 souls, if you will. Those are not full-time people, but 467 people that work with our health ministry that are directly employed. There are obviously other people that work in health fields out in the community, but for people that receive W-2s at the end of the year, we're up to 467 people now, and that's a significant footprint as an employer in this community.
Is there anyone bigger?
No, not singular. No.
RE1's bigger than that, aren't they?
I think aren't we 3?
I'm not sure exactly how some of
Okay.
the different agencies are grouped together.
Okay, I got
You
you.
know, it depends on how you split them,
Yeah, if you
how you
did-
split them up.
right,
And
I
I don't
got
know, if you want to get real specific, what federal tax ID number are they? I don't want to get into that. We employ a lot of
I got you.
people.
Yes, you do.
And, our average compensation is going to be the highest in the community. When you total in where we are with benefits and everything, that's a $37 million a year financial footprint in this community, which is significant. We've obviously grown the workforce over the last couple of years, which as we move into people, I want to touch on that a little bit. If you look down at 2B, our physician recruitment, as I was preparing for this morning's chat, I realized that I'd been here. Thank you, and I will make sure we get this sent to y'all ahead of time for the next presentation. My first day with Southwest Health System and its health ministry was March the 19th of 2015, so coming right up on 3 years now, and it's hard to believe I've been in Cortez that long. But just from a snapshot of where we've come as a health ministry, I took that as a benchmark in time. Not to take credit for what's transpired in that time, but just to look at where we are with new providers that we've recruited to the community. So if you scroll down just a little bit, you get a full scope there, starting with family practice all the way through pulmonary medicine. If you add those up, that comes to be 25 new providers that we've recruited in just under 3 years. And that's significant. The footprint of service in this community has grown a lot over the last 3 years. I won't say there's any one of the last 3 years that's been more than the other, but a significant volume increase in just the number of providers. Now, this does not take into account someone like a Bob Heil that decided to retire, or a Bryant McNeil that decided to move his family to Arizona for family reasons. So this is just a gross number, but a significant increase in the number of providers in our community. We will, back to 2A, our medical staff development plan, we closely match what's going on in our community with what our investment in providers looks like. About every 3 years, we'll take a look and see how our community, how the demographics have changed, and what areas of service that we aren't providing. And depending on what the growth may look like, are there special areas that we need to recruit to? Having spent almost all of my working life in small communities and being a kid growing up in a town about half the size of Cortez, I have a lot of passion around how do we do things in small communities and how do we make the numbers work. So just as a little bit of a sidebar to this, some of the things that we're doing around our health ministry is for some specialty services that we don't have a significant enough population. We don't have enough people in Cortez or Montezuma County, for example, to have a full-time urologist or a full-time oncologist or a full-time cardiologist, some of those specialty services that you typically see in larger communities. We build alliances with surrounding health systems, and we buy that physician capacity to be able to offer it to people who live here so they don't have to travel outside the area. Now, some obviously decide to do that. They want to drive to Farmington. They want to drive to Durango because bigger is always better. And even when you're in a larger city, there's a city even larger than that you can go to for the perception of better care. But we feel like it's a part of our ministry and part of our civic responsibility to provide as many of those services that we possibly can. So, questions so far?
How many of those specialties do you have now, Kent, that are regularly working out of Cortez?
Yeah, good question. I got my brain locked on where.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I've got my brain locked on what we want to do next because as a team, we're always challenging each other. Or what are we growing, expanding in? Our next expansion is going to be into oncology, so that we have a physician that can diagnose and actually order treatment for cancer in this community.
Because you have the transfusion clinic, so I mean, it's just that's a natural step for you, isn't it? I mean.
Yeah. We'll put you on our PR team, okay? Because it is a natural, it's a natural progression for us. Sure. Our infusion nurses are oncology trained, and we've just added another position. We've not filled that yet with the anticipation that we're going to be bringing on oncology services. Right now, you have to go to Farmington or Durango. Dr. Cathcart in Durango is way over full. There is an unfortunate delay of getting in to see her. We are in conversations with an oncologist from Farmington that's interested in working up here. And it's not just seeing the physician that requires somebody to go somewhere else. It's all the follow-up care to that. If you've ever had a member of your family or you yourself had to receive chemo, which is not that uncommon these days, if you're on a 30-day regimen and you have to go somewhere for even every other day, post-treatment, you're not feeling all that well, maybe even emotionally more so than the physical strain of that. If that's something that we can do in this community, it makes perfect sense for us to do that. And so that's the next area that we'll be growing in. So now to your question, what all are we doing here? And y'all help me make sure I don't leave too much out. We have neurologists that work here. We have a neurosurgeon that comes down very intermittently. And we certainly don't do neurosurgery in this community, but that physician service is available. We regularly have cardiology, urology. We have spine medicine that we have regularly scheduled clinic for here. What am I leaving out?
Plastics, reconstruction.
Yes, plastic reconstructive. Let's see, Jeff Williams from Durango comes over and works with us in that area. That's pretty.
Those are.
Yeah, that's it.
That covers it for today.
That's good.
How many have run a mountain bike?
Well, you see every blue 4Runner around with a rack on the back. There's just, every day there's a new one, and they all work for us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the new requirements is you have to have a blue 4Runner.
And multiple
That's
bikes.
probably not good advertising for our local car dealers. Let's move on. Since
Well,
we're
the reason I asked that, because I've ridden with doctors last year, and they would, two of them told me that they moved here because
The
of
mountain biking?
that mountain bike trail out there.
And Dr. Lori Medina, who's a new general surgeon who will be full-time in June, moved here specifically for the outdoor activities. So she's working on phasing her kids in, but that's why she's here, mountain biking and the outdoors, which is exciting.
So I'm just kind of glancing at this list under 2B, and I think about the investment that, as an organization, that we've put into these expensive folks, and the national competition that there is around recruitment for things like orthopedic surgery. We found Dr. Tabacoli down in San Antonio just finishing up his training, and we have to. Our compensation is built around a national competition for providers. It's not just regional competition. Dr. Medina, that Haley just mentioned, has been living in Glenwood Springs, and she's from Tulsa, and she could have gone anywhere. And realizing that we're having to compete nationally for, if we're going to recruit physicians here, it's a significant financial commitment that we make as an organization. I think it's safe to say that that we've been behind, as are most rural areas, around primary care recruitment, family practice, and internal medicine. Every community that I've worked in has been, we've been short of primary care coverage. And they're not in great supply. They're difficult to find. I think the other thing that we're learning now is doctors are millennials that are coming out, and that's a challenge of its own. And for the old guys around the table, that's a steep learning curve for us, because physicians, and I've told you this before, but physicians coming out of training now approach life very differently than the docs that we've known the majority of our lives. They are very mobile. They do not own their own practices. They are working for health systems. They don't have money tied up in buildings. They don't have their names on managed care contracts where they're committed to care for a population. They don't have money tied up in accounts receivable. I'm not saying that they move a lot, but it certainly it makes them more mobile. And so retention is something that we're always looking at, and how do we keep people in our workforce. I did skip over 1D there, which talks about our overall retention rate. It's something that's very important to us, because turnover of any staff person, whether it's a surgeon or a housekeeper or a CEO or a marketing director, is expensive for us because it sets us behind. We're running under the national average for turnover, which is the inverse of the retention of a little over 82%. So about 17.5% turnover. The national average in healthcare is about 20%. So we think that says something good about what we do as an organization, as a ministry. Incidentally, about 60%, as I recall, 60% of our turnover happens in the first year, and about 2/3 of that happens in the first 6 months. We bring people on, it's just not the right fit. Moving on, don't want to take up too much time this morning. Around quality, we have a deemed status for our accreditation, so that our conditions of participation with Medicare and Medicaid services, we go through an independent accreditation survey rather than having the state health department survey us. as hired by the Department of Health and Human Services out of Washington. We do that through a company called DNV, and there are two companies that provide accreditation, DNV and the Joint Commission on Accreditation. DNV has its roots in industry, but they have a healthcare accreditation line. And so they were with us back in December. They do an annual survey, and they do a deep dive every 3 years of those annual surveys. And we had their deep dive back in December. And we realize that they're always going to find something that we're not doing exactly right. That's why we pay them, to make us better. Not to catch us doing something wrong, but to help us figure out how to do things better. And we always submit a corrective action plan, and we were reaccredited by them. And we'll expect them again at the end of this year. Our laboratory services, we jumped through a little bit higher hurdle. That's my opinion with the College of American Pathology. We call it a CAP survey, and it's a group of pathologists and lab techs that come in and spend a couple of days with us and look through everything that happens in our lab. They happened to actually come in on consecutive weeks back in December, so we were glad to have a Christmas break and get all those folks out of our hair. Again, they have some recommendations for us, but I'm really proud of our lab services here. They do a great job with all the specimens and all that stuff that they have to work with. I'm going to let Angela kind of go over a snapshot of where we are financially. As she's getting ready to go into that, I just want to tell you that you've seen some newspaper articles about a significant change that Colorado Medicaid implemented about a year ago. They changed their software, their claims processing system for the entire state.
Yeah, everybody's behind. Everybody's not getting paid now.
Well, we're part of everybody that's not getting paid.
I know you are.
And it's been a challenging, it's been a tough year for us. That's not the only thing that has set us back this last year, but I think it's probably the most, this has had the biggest negative impact on us. We have discussed this with our boards about what our status of that money sitting out with Colorado Medicaid is. We have differences of opinions about that. The reality is that we are starting to get some money coming in from Colorado Medicaid. It is top of our list for advocacy through the Colorado Hospital Association. We also have a rural conference coming up the next couple of weeks, and the new commissioner for the state Medicaid division is going to be there with us. I think we're all glad to see that the process is moving along. Gayla and I had a side conversation about this in one of our meetings about the software change, and so we challenged the state division about how successful this implementation was. And the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services had evaluated this conversion, and they considered it a success because most times these can take up to 2 years. And we were well ahead of other states' progress to that. So that's been a setback for us. We've been funding a lot from operations.
How much do you have on the books with Medicaid of Colorado?
What
in receivables?
Angela's going to go over some of all that, and
All
we'll
right.
talk about that as part of it.
So, on October 1st of 2016, they went to a new outpatient payment model, an EAPG. That was intended to be a budget neutral change. On February 1st, they went to a new claims processing system, which held up payments for us until September. So during that time, we did not receive any outpatient payments from Medicaid. So the week before last, we received our first payment of those reprocessed claims from February or January of 2017. So we are hopeful that over a year later, we are seeing those payments start to come in.
No interest or anything on that? Is there
no,
any penalties or
no.
late payment fee? No late payment fees you can?
No, we're just lucky to get it.
We run a business when you get paid that way.
Yeah,
It
daggone
is.
tough. You're down at the bank borrowing money to operate your business, waiting for them.
So we have heard numbers as high as 15% underpayment by the state of Medicaid if that's true, with what we have billed them and been underpaid, we are close to $3 million owed back in underpayments. We'll see. We'll see what they actually pay us. But, so that is our biggest hurdle in the last year. And then construction has had a dent in our expenses for the year, those unforeseen things that came in. Our gross patient revenue, actually, we didn't quite hit our budget. We had a lofty budget for the year, but we are over $3.4 million from the year before. We didn't do across the board increases on our payments. What we did was went through our charge master and identified areas where we haven't been charging or we weren't charging correctly and made those changes on an individual basis. In 2018, then we could take our standard and do a 5% increase across the board. So the next section you'll see is the revenue deductions. Those are calculated on historic trends of what we negotiate with insurance companies, our bad debt, and then what Medicare and Medicaid will pay us. Medicare, being a critical access hospital, we have to process a cost report in the next couple of months, and then it's like a tax return. You paid us this is what we really should have been paid, and then we'll do a true up. We have estimated probably $1.5 million coming back to us with that, but we'll get that true number when we actually do the cost report. Our expenses, we were over budget about $814,000. We had some big projects going on with our IT and some consulting work around the charge master review, and we saw a huge increase over the prior year, but again, we saw that coming and budgeted for those increases, so we're not too far off of budget. Then on the stats, if you'll see, our outpatient services are starting to decline, which is an industry trend. So you'll see our patient days have declined a little bit over the last 3 years. Our daily census is down a little bit, to be expected. But our outpatient services are raising, which is what we're seeing true to industry. So we've been busy.
How are you doing with your budget for your remodel of the hospital and your additions and your add-on? Are you staying pretty true to your budgeted amount when you initiated?
Yeah, the contract with none is on a guaranteed maximum, and
how big's your contingency?
we still have right around $1 million
In contingency.
in our contingency. Yeah.
Are you overall pleased with the job they're doing?
Yeah.
All right.
And we still, Haley, why don't you go over just kind of a construction update?
Okay.
I got
You
one.
have them.
I stole one.
And then I'll kind of summarize where we are with construction. And then I've got just a couple of other things to close with.
So we're getting close, really close.
Very close.
We anticipate that we'll be moving our first clinic. We're doing it over a course of 4 weeks, but we'll start moving our first clinic on April 6th. So the medical office building, which is the 25,000 square foot building on the south side of the campus, will be finished. That will have 25 physicians. We're moving 8 of the community locations into that building. So that'll be a process, everything from x-ray machines to every single body that has to go in. And that's, depending on the day, 80 to 100 additional people on campus. So we're going to get creative. Maybe Food Truck Friday. We're not sure yet. Everything is coming along. The patient wing looks more put together, but it doesn't have all the systems in yet. So they'll be doing that over the next few weeks, and we anticipate that we'll we're going to try to open the patient wing towards the end of April. We do have a little bit more flexibility with that. The biggest thing is moving the actual people and scheduling that. So we can get everything set up and ready to go and then have a go live date essentially for moving our patients into the new facility. And that's something that can always change because it's human. If something happens, we'll adjust. We will still be using the ER entrance until probably end of July. We didn't want to have to move people twice. So we're just going to keep that ER entrance as our main lobby until the lobby is open towards the end of July. Nunn has done an absolutely amazing job. I don't think I could think of nicer things to say about them. They really have become kind of our family over at our location. I mean, they're with us every day, every single day, and including Boomer, which everybody knows him. But everything looks great. You know, the architects did a really nice job of making sure that it's not overdone, but it's perfect in the places where people will be. So it's not over the top or extra. It's simple and updated, and the spaces are really great. So we're hoping that patients and family will enjoy being able to use those new spaces, especially like in family birthing and the places that you're opting to go to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're getting closer every single day, and we keep these updates on our front page of our website. So if you had any questions, you can always pull up the weekly update to see what's going on. But we also, I think we told you a couple months ago, about 65% of our subs are all local as well. So we've had great experiences with them too, and I think we're pretty lucky to be able to have that many local subs working on our project. I think there's a lot of investment because they are community members as well. Any questions about this project? You can read through it. I wouldn't read it to you. But yeah.
Oh, that's
I see
great
they
to
get
hear.
the weather.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're only 43 days lost in 2 years. And
Well, this winter's had to have been a real boon to. Of course,
we're not
mostly indoors
complaining.
there, yeah.
We're not complaining. It still does make a difference for the subs that have to get down to us. That's where we've lost a little bit of time, but that's about it.
If you were to go back 2 years and fly over the campus, you'd really see that there's 4 big chunks, and that's a technical term, 4 big chunks of what we're doing. The first one is one that we really forget about because we've already been using, and that is our EMS.
Oh yeah, that's.
We call it a barn, a station, whatever. Our EMS facility and our facility operations, which is on the north side of our campus, and we've been in that so much now that that's kind of old hat for us. But it's significant improvement to the services that we had no place for EMS. They were out in the parking lot.
They were in the parking lot. Yeah.
So they're glad to be in their new home. And in not any particular order, the inpatient wing, which is on the northeast part of our campus, will house the new 20-bed replacement facility, the medical office building, which is the 2-story addition that's going in on the south part of the campus. So the fourth chunk, as I'll call it, is the new main entrance and the drop-off area, porte-cochere, and the kind of an entrance and registration atrium. The old campus, when you drove in that circular drive, you went in, there was a 2-story open area. Be much the same as that, but considerably larger, and to provide for circulation, but also as an entryway to get up to the second floor, and then a tie-in for public entrance back into the inpatient wing. And we'll split visitors to campus, if you will, once we get that fourth chunk open. And so if you're coming in for outpatient services or things like that, then you'd enter from the east side of campus, and the emergency department and ambulance entrance will still be on the north side of the campus. But right now, knock on wood, haven't had too many recent complaints. We're circulating everybody through the emergency room area. It's very congested. It's not abnormally user-friendly. We know that. It's a temporary main entrance, and we're anxious to get away from that. Mr. Ortel, to your question about funding around it and how much contingency is left. We're sitting on about $1 million remaining in our contingency. And don't see that there can be really anything else that would happen to the patient wing of the medical office building around needing to expend contingency monies. That fourth chunk, the atrium, that's a good bit of square footage. So, we're in the ground. We've poured all the foundation and all the footers for that. So, yeah, we scratched down a foot and we hit big rock. So we had to spend a lot of extra money to excavate. We've already taken that money out of our contingency fund for those. So the steel is already on site. The design has been sitting out there in front of the engineers and drawn up by the contractor for a couple of years now. So I think it'd be logical to say that there should not be significant contingencies that come up around that atrium entrance.
We understand about rock. We have all too.
Everybody here does. The school does. Anybody that's built anything
Osprey
here
has some
understands
rock and water.
Look at where we live. It is the Rocky Mountains.
Yep.
I will tell you, it's a little bit better knowing that than other areas I've worked in that has surprising subterranean caverns. Because there's not much you can. It's hard to fill in millions of cubic yards of caverns. And when you're trying to build a heavy hospital on top of those, that can cause all kinds. And there's seismic stuff that goes along with that. Enough about that. So we will continue around recruitment. I will tell you that from just the sheer number of recruitment that we've done for the last few years, we're going to be plateauing in that. We have limits around our space. We have limits around our ability just to financially support physician practices. We continue to invest in those, and everybody I know of in this industry, they're subsidizing physician practices. We'll continue to do what we can to meet our community's needs. It is difficult to stay out in front of everybody's wants and desires 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That is important to us. So we will continue to keep our ear to the ground on that. One name that you've heard, if you've been around this community for a while, is Quorum or QHR. Our health ministry has had a long-term agreement with them. It's a company out of Nashville, a management company. That relationship ended at the end of 2017. Just felt like it was time to make a better use of those monies. It was about a 219, I believe, ballparkish, an annual amount that we paid them, and decided
219,000.
Excuse me, 219,000.
Let's see where the decimal point lands on that.
But
219.
but no more zeros than that. 219,000. But we looked at what we were getting out of that investment, and decided it was time to make a change to that. So the services that we were getting from them, we're getting them from the same company that does our financial audit. And so as part of that also, we've transitioned who we purchase our supplies through. We have in healthcare, we use what's called group purchase organizations, GPOs. And it's like, to very much oversimplify this, a Sam's Club membership, for example. Most of our supplies come from outside the community.
Sure.
We don't make a lot of IV solutions here, and we don't make pharmaceuticals here. So we buy those supplies from outside, and we've actually reached a partnership agreement that we are piggybacking on the relationship that San Juan Regional down in Farmington has with a national firm for purchasing discounts. And so we've reached a bit of an alliance with them around certain services that we need. So I know that's a lot to throw in front of you this morning, a lot going on. Always things that we're digging on, exploring how we can do better, and always interested if y'all know something that we need to be working on as well. So you're always welcome to call me.
Thank you.
Okay?
Good to hear from you. Glad to hear your project's going so well. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you. Good to have you here. See you soon.
Okay. Hopefully not in a professional sense.
Well,
They never want to see me in a
I would say
professional sense.
top line revenue is important to us.
Ready for the police department. Clint?
Morning, Clint.
Hello?
Looks like it, yeah. Thank you.
Here to propose getting a truck for the maintenance department. I brought this to show you what we're actually gonna gain. As you've got a new building for your courthouse and stuff, you're gained a lot of square footage for them guys, what they gotta do. We didn't get no snow this winter, but what's next year gonna bring, you know? This truck will help them because it gets them a lift, a Tommy lift on the back end that would let them start to carry stuff around. Like they have heavy stuff for waxing and stuff that they need to do it, their buffers and stuff. That will
Just a
give
pure
them that.
limit of what they're asked to move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't have any way of putting anything in their trailer. They have a dump deck trailer now. It's nice, but they have no way to put anything in there. So this will get a lift. It will give them an extra 8 by 2 foot V plow, so they can plow more. It gives them a 24-inch box for it instead of a 12-inch box, so they can put more into it, so they can carry a lot of stuff and service out of it a lot better. It'll be a dually, so it can handle the trailer better and do what it needs to do. It's very important that they have something like that because right now their snowplows I think in 85. I may be wrong, but I think it's in 1985 or 95. I forget which, but it's a lot of miles. It isn't very well or can't be utilized very well because it's always got ball joints and U-joints going out on that stuff. So this basically, all I'm asking is to help get them where they can compete and get everything done in a timely fashion when they do get any kind of a call. And they're always at the jailhouse. They have to come back continuous back and forth to the building to get stuff because they have no room to put it in their little toolboxes. This will also carry them an air compressor that's not in this with this bid, but it'll carry an air compressor so they can do everything on site and make it a lot better for them.
Is it gas?
Yeah, it's gas. Right? And I went the other way with diesel and with the cost, and what you would do is about $13,000 more, and you can get
a 1-ton?
Yeah, 1-ton 6.0 Chevy dually, not a crew cab, just a 2 cab or cab and a half basically. And the 6.0 has plenty. It's got 410 rear end in it, which will pull plenty good for them. And for the cost of what you're doing, like so the truck come out to.
I was gonna say that's a heck of a discount from 42 to 30,000.
Yeah.
Is that the state bid? Is that a
That's
state bid?
Yeah. I go to state bids all the time, and
Yeah.
Moorhart Murphy does a good job in Durango actually with this. Not too much here, but Moorhart Murphy's pretty good. They do carry it. I found them last year, and they carry all this discount. They go through Wiminuche and a lot of them here now.
Keach doesn't do that.
No,
doesn't.
Keach and Cazeze doesn't offer that. It's too small of a community, but Moorhart stepped up and brought a guy from John Elway down from Denver a couple years ago, and the guy does a pretty decent job. I take him what it says on our, I go in and look at the what it says for the state bid, and I'll tell the guy that's what the state bid said, and he matches it.
Wow.
And his name's John Elway?
No, he came from John Elway. He's friends with Elway actually. No, it's Ron Risner, but he actually came from John Elway and stuff. So he worked
That
up there for
dealership
Elway.
up there,
Yeah, he worked for Elway for a long time, and he was a government guy. And when he came down here, he wanted to get into a smaller community. You said earlier, and it helps us. I would love to deal with our local community here, but if it's $12,000 difference, unfortunately, it can't be done.
Yeah.
But my request on this, as we're working through this and going through the transition into the fleet and things like this, my recommendation is to buy this out of the capital fund as an additional cost of that. So because maintenance is so far behind in trying to accumulate, the pickups that they have are hand-me-downs
They're
of
all
hand-me-downs of
hand-me-downs,
hand-me-downs of
yeah.
hand-me-downs. And that's one of the biggest things that we have is it's old, worn-out stuff, and by the time the miles that they use, we're never going to get them up to speed on what
And
they need.
this will give equity to the rest of the people in fleet when it comes to their departments needing vehicles. They're not gonna see
Exactly,
the
because
maintenance
they're
department
concerned.
stepping up and getting a
No,
new
it's
vehicle with.
no, it's. I think it's.
It leaves parity there.
Yeah, and now it's set up where it'll go into all the departments. Some with a small, don't need as much because they get like an Equinox, but this is a big hit. So like Melissa's saying, this will really help to put them on the same playing field as they're so far behind the 8 ball for so many years that will really help them to get them where they need to be.
Half tons?
They have 1 half ton. It doesn't have anything in it.
That can't
Yeah.
plow snow or
No,
anything
it
like
does.
that.
Their oldest truck they have is the only one with snow plow. So this would give them 2 snow plows. I don't know. We'd have to find out discuss with Mike what he wants to get rid of and how that works to keep them up where they need to be. But
you don't expect another department to come a year from now and say, hey, we've got to pull money out of capital?
I don't think so. Most of the rest of the one that's behind is the other one that's behind is the corner, you know, because that was worn out when all this started. So we started brand new, fresh with that vehicle. So this should catch everybody for the most part up to date.
We've had discussions with Road and Bridge and Sheriff's Department. They're the ones that are afraid. They're afraid that if we don't take it out of capital, they're going to suffer. So they're agreeing with this.
Well, of course they are.
yeah, everybody has their own department. The way it works, Larry, don't
We're all
on that.
selfish when it comes to our own stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but to answer that, I've talked to some of the people, and I've got it up to how much we get a year, what we need to replace, which will be coming to you guys whenever it's set up. And no, it's going to gain every year. And I have talked to the road department, talked to others, and road department now totally understands this part of this money that comes in on the 51 cents a mile that goes in needs to be spread throughout the whole departments. So because that's the only way you can make it work is just for it to come in front of you guys, the commissioners, and you look at what the pictures are and put it where the vehicle needs to go. That's something that departments probably can ask for, but I believe they should come in front of you guys and you should see, okay, we have this or that. Then it takes the whining basically out of their hands and puts it in your hands to do the right thing with what you believe in. And I've got all the money, and a lot of them, like the road maintenance, 36,000 miles a year is basically what they put on their vehicles. They'll be okay. The only ones you're going to be like Larry O'Donnell's going to be behind is some that only put in like 2,000 a year or 3,000 a year. There's got to be a way to make these vehicles either go more miles or bring it down to smaller number of vehicles in the county and utilize them for different departments to use them together to make it where you actually get your mileage out of the vehicle that you need to make it pay for itself. So.
Yeah, where they start using the vehicle out of a pool instead of having one designated to them, they pool those vehicles.
Right.
Well, I know in December when we looked at how many vehicles that Montezuma County owned, and we looked at how many Delta County, we looked at several other counties, and we were so out of whack as far as
numbers.
We had too many compared to everybody else.
And I've been talking to not all the departments, but a lot of them, and I'd like to hear back, like I heard the road department telling their guys, well, we're going to try to get rid of 3 this year. We get them 2 and get rid of 3 or 4 of these older ones. They decide, okay, this is what we got to do to downsize. And I think it'll go community-wise, or, wide eventually, because there's 3 or 4 smaller departments that could use one vehicle and save you all this. Just $353 a vehicle for insurance.
Just insurance alone.
If you don't drive enough miles, you can't even pay for your insurance.
Right.
You know.
Well,
it's just
we are in that category.
Yeah.
Well, we are.
Yeah. And
so.
Well, yeah, but like okay with the Suburban, there's people across the street that could come check that out anytime they wanted.
Put it in the pool and have it available to
Exactly.
anybody, any department, anytime they need. That's right.
Yeah, so you could pull three vehicles off of one side of the other side of the street over here just to cover that,
Exactly.
So there's ways to utilize your vehicles, and they have to look at that because it's not my duty to do that. I just do the due diligence and tell you where you've got slop that you need to tighten up for your vehicle costs and parts. But this one's unnecessary to get them even,
Are we still 4 strong in our maintenance department?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we're going to probably stay at that number, aren't we?
Probably at least through the end of the year. We have the person who's out on work comp, so we may flip-flop that out.
Yeah.
We'll keep it at 4 people, so the temporary person would leave. And
so we don't know any of the status on the work comp?
he's
employee.
scheduled to come back in April. Mid-April.
And
at this
they're
point.
nobody's allowed to smoke in the vehicles, is that correct? Is that a policy?
It's supposed to be. You guys put it in policy over a year and a half or so ago, yes, somewhere in that date.
And I think
For the most part, I haven't seen it.
caught anybody yet.
No, I haven't seen much of it because,
When they come in for service stuff, you haven't noticed an odor?
no, it stopped probably about 6 months, 8 months ago, somewhere in there. I think that the bosses, you know, the superintendents and the sheriff and all these are saying, don't do this, because if you do, you're gonna get it, you know? So, yeah,
Maybe
that's,
consequences.
yeah, I can tell immediately. I smoked for years when I was younger, and I can smell a car a mile away, and believe me, that and the dogs.
Most people can,
Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes a dog, you know, and that's something that has stopped, but somebody was carrying their dog, and I'm like, can't do that. You know, not when somebody else got to ride in a vehicle.
Especially when it's shared.
Right, and the fleet can, you know, you can utilize these vehicles from the fleet and like your, the one down here, you got a, what is it, a Malibu, I think, or a
No, the,
Chevy.
That little four-door sedan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could probably do something like get rid of that and buy you a like little Equinox for like 23,000, where it was all-wheel drive, which you could utilize all year round, which would get just as good as fuel economy and do you something if you want to do that, which would make it more appealing to the other departments to use.
Is that the car?
yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even use that car.
I know.
Well, it's not used hardly at all, you know, and it's not that old. I think
Right,
it's a 2012.
And that'd bring you decent money at an auction at this point instead of letting you get throughout the years longer. I think
So
that's
it's only
something you
got
could look at, not
probably
having to hold.
30?
36,000, I
Oh,
believe,
30.
something like that. It's not very much. They brought good last time at the last auction. That brought a pretty good price for that car. And it's something around here with your different, you know, seasons, not really beneficial to the county at this point.
I don't think it is. I mean, we should turn it into money, in my opinion.
Well, that's what you're gonna tell us.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
what
bring it
you're
to you
gonna
guys
tell
and
us.
tell you where I
Yeah.
see stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
You bet.
it
That's
is what it
exactly
is, you know. I've got it down, like I said, I've got it down to the miles, to how many miles each department goes, how many they go a month, a week, a day. I can tell you where all the vehicles go and what they do. I can give you a price, a breakdown of that, miles per gallon. We have all that. They will be coming out that I'm starting, so you can see where your waste is by what I have in there.
That's what that department's supposed to do.
Yeah, it is supposed to.
Well, I would like to make a motion that we obtain a 2018 Chevrolet pickup truck for our maintenance department at a total cost of $47,535 from our capital fund.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase a 2018 Chevrolet pickup for the maintenance department for $47,535. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, well, thank you, Clint.
Clint, if you wanna hang around just a minute, I think we've
Oh,
got a couple
yeah,
more motions.
go ahead and,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
we got a couple corrections to do.
Okay.
Did you find that correction on?
Oh,
that?
yes, I'm
What
sorry.
is it?
Yeah,
He's looking for his cheat sheet.
my cheat sheet. It's you have, are you? gonna
I don't
put that-
have it.
Okay. This is a motion, a corrective motion. We, in 2017, November 2017.
November 20th,
November
actually.
20th, 2017, we made and passed a motion about 1 ton or less vehicles on the county fleet department for purchase and replacement, that we need to amend that to state that to exempt 1 ton vehicles with special equipment. This relates to our road department that have dump boxes and different, they're specialty vehicles. They're not just a 1 ton truck that can be used for anything there, where you can load a crew in and go do something. So they're specialty trucks. So I want to make a motion to change an amendment to that motion, which states that we will exempt 1 ton vehicles with special equipment, such as dump beds. And then the other motion, I guess we should do them one at a time. So, okay, so.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to exempt vehicles from, again, return to the police department that are one-ton vehicles with special equipment such as dump beds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the next motion, I guess I'll just read this and then we'll go from there. This is a motion to include in the transfer to the fleet department vehicles purchased by the town of Dolores, the Ute Mountain Casino used by the sheriff's department. They will be charged the same mileage rate as comparable fleet vehicles, and funds received from the purchasing agencies would be refunded from the fleet department to the sheriff's department budget at the rate of 1/3 of the purchase price per year for 3 years following the purchase, less insurance for the sheriff's department's trailers and Humvees. Okay, so that means the sheriff's department, they're gonna take those vehicles that are bought by the casino and the town of Dolores, they're gonna be put into the fleet. But since those vehicles are paid for by those outside entities, 1/3 every year for 3 years will be sent back to the sheriff's department for those vehicles as a reimbursement. But they will pay the mileage and all of that, but then as a reimbursement, because this fleet didn't purchase the vehicle, we don't have the costs involved in purchasing those vehicles. So.
Second. Was that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion. Yeah, it was a motion. A very wordy motion, but it was a motion.
Kim will give you this also.
Yeah.
I'll read it one more time.
Yeah, read it.
It's been moved and seconded to include in the transfer to the fleet department vehicles purchased by the town of Dolores and the Ute Mountain Casino for use by the sheriff department. The sheriff department will be charged the same mileage rate as comparable fleet vehicles, and funds received from the purchasing agencies would be refunded from the fleet department to the sheriff department budget at the rate of 1/3 of the purchase price per year for 3 years following the purchase, less insurance for the sheriff department trailers and Humvees. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I think there was one more correction in that November 20th budget. It said all vehicles will be transferred to the fleet effective January 1, 2017. It should have been January 1, 2018. Just a typo. But that cleans up all of our discussions from the last couple of weeks, so.
Okay. Does that get everything that we've been?
I think you're pretty good. You'll eventually have to come out with maybe a purchase from the casino and the Dolores to make some kind of agreements at the end of the 3 years to be able to maybe buy that back into the fleet department, that vehicle. That way you're buying something with 38,000 back. But that'll be when you do your contract, or however you guys do your contractual contact with them. But that will give you money back for the city or the county to actually recoup and get a decent vehicle at the end. It would benefit the county to do that.
Do they have the option, do the casino and the town of Dolores have the option to take that vehicle back at the end of 3 years?
They give it back to them, yes.
They give them a vehicle back.
Right.
Does
Town of
it-
Dolores has to be the vehicle, doesn't it? But
The
casino
the casino can be anything, and the town of Dolores is the vehicle that was purchased, so.
But the town of Dolores has 2 vehicles that they actually have. This one was paid out way before this was done. They have one that's on the books is all. But there's actually 2 that serve the city there of Dolores. So that's where you gain your back good for the county is to offer them to buy them vehicles out when they change them out at that price, and when they purchase a new one. That way you can keep vehicles in the county that's low mileage.
Low
and
mileage, still well serviceable.
Right, and we'll drop down to benefit the county and Dolores altogether because they can use it for any of them. So instead of just, letting it go back, that's something later date. I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
What's the one-time exempted from what?
From being a fleet
A fleet
vehicle,
vehicle.
fleet-owned vehicle.
Oh, I see.
So if it's a specialty one for the road and bridge, the road and bridge will take and maintain that.
Thank you.
Can you give that paper to Kim? Yeah.
Yeah, and I apologize for not coming
No,
yet.
no big deal. That's no big deal. It's, whenever you guys get time to look at it, I've got a lot of stuff if you want to look at it. It's there whenever. No hurry.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Good.
time, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Glenn. Keep up the good work. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Anything else?
I
Yeah,
have
there
one
was
more,
something.
one more thing on the agenda is this, oh, no, we can do it later. I can do it later. That's okay. Go ahead. The cemetery district appointments is the only other thing that I have. We have, the Areola Cemetery District, Sherry Gardner submitted, a letter of interest, and at the Lebanon Cemetery District, Frank Muniz, who is currently on the board, wanted to re-up and do both of those for 6-year terms. And this would get them, get their boards full and back in
Did you
compliance.
say Sherry Gardner?
Yes,
What, and that was for Lebanon, or,
for Areola.
well, I would move to approve Sherry Gardner for the Areola Cemetery as well as Frank Muniz for the, for 6 years.
Yeah,
And Frank Muniz for which?
Lebanon.
Lebanon,
For 6 years.
for 6 years as well.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded to appoint Cheryl Gardner,
Sherry Gardner.
Sharon,
Sherry, yeah.
for a 6-year term on the Areola Cemetery District, and Frank Muniz for a 6-year term on the Lebanon Cemetery District Board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Slowly, I'm tracking them down.
Tracking them down.
But at
And
least
you
the
have
best
to
part
do-
is it's a 6-year term. At one time, they thought they were 3-year terms, so
Yeah.
that definitely makes a difference, so.
Tracking and hunting them down. You know you was gonna be a bounty hunter, didn't you?
Uh-uh.
With that, we'll adjourn for lunch.
Okay. Bounty hunter.
I didn't know you were a photographer. You're not really, but you are today, aren't you? Playing with my toy.
Is he gonna go to lunch with us, or? Is he gonna go to lunch with us, or?
No,
He's got,
I won't take him.
okay.
I've had him since, I brought him down Friday, and I haven't had time to visit.
He's with him. So now.
He's been